Back to order. Again, this is the meeting of the Board of County Commissioners for October 24th. I hope that y'all were appreciative of the fact that I didn't make you sit here not knowing from 11:30 until 1 o'clock. So hopefully that helps some. So before we get started here, I think we need to have a discussion. This morning, when we heard the case this morning, basically we were told that you couldn't do anything but move the case forward to the second public hearing, and that's the only option we basically had. But that seems to be different than what we've done it in the past, and so I need to know, and we've done PUDs before, this isn't our first PUD. Do I need to give you some time to do a little research on that? We'll talk about it before we make the next motion. It's very concerning to me that we have to go through two public hearings at the end. And if it's in our ordinance or if there's something, then that's one thing. If it's statute, then that's another thing. But this is definitely different than what we've ever done it before in all the years I've been paying attention. And so if that's the case, I mean, other than the people having to be here for nothing, we could basically move this forward to the next meeting and have all the testimony at the next meeting, or hear it all twice, but it makes everybody have to come back. We can't make a decision. It seems like it's very unfair to the people that are coming here and trying. It makes us look like we're not wanting to do something, when I think all the commissioners are not wanting that at all.
I understand. I don't need any more time to research. We can talk about it now.
Okay.
When you look at section 125.66, subsection 5B1, the statute says, the Board of County Commissioners shall hold two advertised public hearings on the proposed ordinance or resolution. At least one hearing shall be after 5 p.m. on a weekday, unless the Board of County Commissioners, by a majority vote plus one, elects to conduct that hearing at another time of day, which, by the way, your earlier motion was 4-1. And then it goes into the 7-day and the 10-day that Zach was referencing before. So it's the statute that says that. How we've done it in the past, we used to have, there were times where we did have these types of ordinances at a 5:05.
But they were always for budget stuff.
We did land use ones as well. The budget always has to be after 5 o'clock, but we had done it that way. At some point, some of these may have dropped off, and I'm not exactly sure, but as Zach and I were talking about what the process is, we went back and looked at the statute.
Okay. So basically, the Planning Commission doesn't count as a hearing because they're not quasi-judicial,
That was actually my first response to Zach when he came to me, is that I had interpreted, or I'd been in the past where either your LPA, your Planning Commission, your ZBOA counted as one of the public hearings, but the statute says that the Board of County Commissioners shall hold two advertised public hearings. It doesn't say that it can be delegated.
So why do we have a Planning Commission at all if we've got to hold two public hearings on everything that goes to the Planning Commission?
It's not everything that goes to the Planning Commission. So when you go back, so when you go back to 5A, 125.66 5A, it says in cases in which the proposed ordinance or resolution changes the actual zoning map designation for a parcel of land involving less than 10 contiguous acres, and then it goes into the requirements. So there are plenty of things the Planning Commission and the ZBOA do that do not actually affect the change in zoning.
Okay. So on issues that we know that it has to have two public hearings, could we make sure that we identify those issues ahead of time where the people, when it goes to Planning Commission, know that it's going to have two public hearings before the board, where they're prepared for that up front? Because I don't think anybody came here today prepared for two public hearings, either in the previous case or this case.
I think we can make sure that that's part of the staff report to advise people of what the process is. I mean, we do with the rest of the ordinance.
Okay, and so basically that everybody, let's take this morning's case, for instance, and this one here, everybody that speaks today can come back and speak again at the next public hearing, or they could have just come to the next public hearing and speak. when the actual decision is gonna be made.
Correct.
The legislature might have thought that was helping stuff, but it looks to me like they just bogged down the process for a month. Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I feel the same way. I think it's, these good people take time out of their day to come. And today, if today's how we did it this morning, we're going to vote to move it forward. And you're not going to know whether we like it or don't like it. And I think that's wrong. I think that's really wrong. But that we can't change it, so it is what it is. But Mr. Chairman, I'll go along with the meeting. Thank you.
Well, it's frustrating to me, as I know it is my fellow commissioners, because we've done in the last 5 years everything we could to move things forward and get things to move faster. We've changed our ordinance, we've changed our land code, we've done everything we could do to try to speed the process up and make it quicker. And now we've just hit a roadblock, evidently, that's gonna take a lot more additional time to get something passed. So, Commissioner Adams-Ack?
I think the one thing we're missing here is the other part that Rich had said earlier is we do have the opportunity at this time to make changes to what we're recommending to move forward and to give staff the direction if we had something in what was presented to be presented differently the second time. I think that's hearing from the community to try to make some of those type of decisions, especially if you're talking about a PUD where it's going to be ingrained and very specific, not just a simple zoning change. I think that's important. That's just my take.
Commissioner Harvey?
Mr. Chairman, I did talk during our break, though, to Mr. Helms, who's in charge of that department. Rich, I have a question for you, because it seems a little weird that if we're going to have a staff recommendation to either approve or deny, do we need that at the first meeting, or would it just be appropriate to do it at the second meeting? Because as Commissioner Adams-Ack just said, there might be changes you want to make, and then that gives a false sense of security to the people in the audience who might say, well, we're going to put a noise ordinance on it, or we're going to put a fence restriction, and then we go to the second meeting and we deny it. What's the point? Or we approve it, one or the other?
But isn't it?
Scenario, if I can just answer him, that scenario happens actually somewhat frequently. And the reason why is because even though staff makes a recommendation based upon their interpretation of the code, first off, when it goes to ZBOA or it goes to the Planning Commission, they're making a recommendation to you. So they need that staff recommendation very early on before they make a decision as your appointed board. But separate from that, just like you disclose ex parte communication, there are plenty of times where as you move through the process, you just learn new information which may change the way you feel you should vote on a particular topic.
I agree. Okay.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started with the next zoning case, which is PUD 2301. Zach, whenever you're ready, sir.
We might have to get IT back in here, sir.
Jacob, can you or Benny come back in, and we're having some issues? Go ahead and say it, Jacob. Operator error.
Thank you, Chairman. For the record, Zachary Baker, Planning and Development Services. This is PUD 23-000001, East River Estates. We just had this discussion about Florida Statute 125.665B. After everything's considered today, we're just looking to figure out when are we going to hear this for the second and hopefully final time. This is an application to amend the zoning map from agriculture and residential 2 to planned unit development. The applicant has hired on Matthews Design Group to help him with his application request.
Hey, Zach, hang on just a second. I'm not trying to interrupt you, but basically what you just said, if I understood, was we cannot send it forward today and it's done. But we have to, I thought we heard earlier that we had to send it forward one way or the other to the second hearing.
You just said that.
I think you just said that we're trying to determine today, are we going to send this forward to another hearing?
Correct, when it's going to go to the
So
next
you
hearing.
just need to know when it's going to go, but we're sending it forward, whether we're for it or not, it has to go to another public hearing.
That's correct. Statute
Yeah, that's what I
requires 2
understood.
hearings.
Either way, yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that I understood correctly. Sorry for interrupting you. Please proceed.
It really comes down to the time, whether it's 5:05 or at your regularly scheduled. To resume, this is a consideration for a development of 175 age-restricted mobile home unit, mobile home park, which would also include a clubhouse, pool, gazebos, outdoor entertainment area, and recreational facilities. It was presented to you prior to the start of this item that they have chosen to modify the development agreement. Now it would be 160 units. I believe you all have that paperwork in front of you. So the property's 55.5 acres, plus or minus. It's currently vacant. Previous use of cropland. The property is located in the urban service future land use designation, which supports infill, increased residential development, and promotes mixed-use developments. The future land use classification for this parcel would allow for residential density of up to 24 units per acre if community water and sanitary sewer are present, which they are. The parcel does contain approximately 11.5 acres of wetlands and some FEMA Special Flood Hazard Area AE, mostly located in the southwest corner of the parcel. This area is not intended to be developed, which is referenced on the conceptual plan and within the development agreement. So again, the wetland delineation is showing it's actually 11.92 acres. Nonetheless, they are retaining that 25-foot wetland buffer as required by LDC 45-392. That would then make them subject to any sort of wetland density transfer so that they can stack all of their development into the uplands. An environmental and protected species report has been completed by CES, Carter Environmental Services, September 23rd, 2022. The United States Fish and Wildlife Services provided a list of potential threatened species. CES analyzed during their observation and found there to be no species of concern on the property. A traffic study was performed by Buchholz Traffic on May 11th, 2023 to analyze potential traffic impacts of the proposed development. When they completed their traffic study, it was under the pretense that it was going to be a 215-unit park, which is what this really started out as. Since then, the applicant reduced to 175 units, which is what Planning Commission heard, and now down to 160 in front of the Board of County Commissioners. Nonetheless, the traffic study for those 215 units anticipated traffic volumes would not warrant any road improvements. Despite that analysis, the applicant is proposing and funding a left turn lane on East River Road into the proposed park to mitigate traffic congestion for future residents stacking in travel lanes trying to ingress the community. Additionally, the developer is going to be working with Putnam County Public Works to provide pedestrian improvements at the intersection of East River Road and Putnam County Boulevard. We can get into those, I think, in a little bit on this presentation. If the PUD is approved, the project will be further reviewed by the Development Review Committee. The proposed use will be assessed as it relates to relevant infrastructure to determine if any improvements are required. The developer would be responsible for funding those improvements. Water, sewer, solid waste, roads, and parks and recreation are the 5 pillars of our concurrency review. Here you have an aerial image of the property. This shows the future land use. It's right on the end or edge of the urban service area. West, adjacent to the property, is rural residential. And then it's not colored on this map or titled on this map, but northwest across East River Road is actually urban service area. Or I'm sorry, urban reserve. Here we can see the zoning district. So this is ag and R2. To the west is ag, further west is residential estate and R1HA, which are single-family zoning districts that only permit single-family residences. However, southeast and southeast, you have residential 2, which would permit mobile homes. So you can see that this could be a pretty good transition from the zoning district that does allow mobile homes to a zoning districts that do not. Here you can see the wetlands. This is per the National Wetlands Inventory GIS layer that we have. And the flood zone, showing some flood zone AE within the same area as the wetlands. This is the wetlands delineation that was supplied by the applicant as part of the deliverable. And this was the proposed site plan at the time that we created the PowerPoint before we had a modified site plan. Looking at the two very quickly right now, I'm not seeing much of a difference, but perhaps the applicant or their agent will elaborate what's changed. All right, so the current zoning, agriculture would require a minimum lot size of 1 acre for single-family dwelling units. Rezoning to the PUD would allow greater flexibility in regards to site design. The proposed zoning would allow for the development of a 160, we're amending it from 175 to 160, unit age-restricted mobile home community, which adheres to residential density requirements and is consistent with the goals of the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan. Ancillary uses would include a community house with pool, gazebos, outdoor entertainment, rec facilities, and outdoor storage. Additional mitigation for increased traffic or compatibility issues would be addressed at the Development Review Committee before development occurs. The proposed development is compatible with the goals, objectives, and policies of the urban service category and the future land use element of the Putnam County Comp Plan. The proposed use conforms to the development requirements of planned unit developments as stipulated by LDC Section 45-222. Proposed development provides infill within the urban service land use area. And this is kind of important too. I was going to just abbreviate this, but and it provides compatible transition between the medium and large residential and agricultural uses north and northwest of the proposed development and high-density vested subdivisions located south and southeast of the proposed development. Again, this is going to go before the Development Review Committee before any development begins. Staff is recommending approval of the request to amend the Putnam County zoning map from ag to planned unit development to allow for a 160 unit age restricted community as it is compatible with surrounding land uses in the area, consistent with the requirements for PUD zoning and consistent with the future land use designation, and is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan. Despite those findings, the Planning Commission at the September 13th, 2023 public hearing voted to recommend denial of the proposed rezone. And just a reminder, we're looking at another meeting on this.
Is there any questions of staff at this time?
Yes, sir. Can you go back to one of your, the colored map? I think it was the future land use. Yeah, okay. So, go to the next one.
Before or after?
After, I'm sorry. And what's the dark pink?
That is a planned unit development that never came to fruition.
Okay, thank you.
What would it take at this point to bring that forward, the planned unit development that was approved before? Was there a sunset on it, or basically could they go in and develop that as the housing unit that was approved back years ago, as long as they didn't change or either come for an amendment to the existing PUD on that.
So I'll be honest with you, after the Planning Commission, we got a records request for that development, and I simply just gathered the documents and sent them to that requester. I don't know what the nuances are in terms of the phasing and if it's still viable for development or if it's expired and the development agreement is now void.
Well, do you think you could try and find that information between now and the next hearing? Because I think that's tremendous on this project, is if they could move, if someone could move right across the street and still develop that planned unit development with all the houses across the street.
It's very important.
I can, yeah, I could step away and.
No, between now and the next hearing, well, all we can
Oh.
do today is move this forward,
I gotcha. Yeah, not a problem.
unless I misunderstood something, that's, okay. Okay, so Commissioner Adams-Act was first.
Should we do ex parte on this one as well?
Thank you.
When I get around to it, yes, sir. Are you ready now? We'll do it right now.
Yeah.
Commissioner
Just I saw
Adams-Act.
someone get up there to speak.
Well,
I have had
I
ex
didn't
parte
invite her up to
communication
speak yet.
with both sides on this issue, and it will not affect my vote.
Commissioner Harvey?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've had communications with both sides, plus and against, and plenty of emails, and it will not affect my decision, which will not happen today anyway.
Commissioner Pickens?
Yeah, I've had some conversations, a lot of emails, and it will not affect my decision.
Commissioner Wilkinson?
Yes, I've been both sides, contacted on both sides, and sat down with, I actually had a Zoom meeting with the developer, and I've been on the site, and it will not affect my decisions.
Yeah, I've had discussions with both sides of it, myself and a Zoom meeting with the Matthews Design Group on behalf of the developer, and it will not affect my decision one way or the other. Commissioner Harvey, did you have anything else to add? Sure, your light was
I do.
on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Zach, in your staff report on page 135, and it was pointed out to me with a conversation the other day, on top paragraph right there, when you start looking at putting how many units you can put on a lot size, do we subtract out the improvements that are proposed or needed at that point? Or do we just say, there's 55 acres and 11 is not going to be usable, that's going to leave 44, and we just put that on there? Or would we take out the roads and the clubhouse and the retention pond, and then that would give us a better number, I think? I'm just asking.
No, sir. When we calculate residential density, we go specific to the size of the parcel. So roads and stormwater, and in some cases, wetlands or military restriction, there's residential density transfers that are applicable.
Okay. On the next page, on page 136, on the bottom paragraph, you describe what the soil looks like in that area. And one thing I did read, and it was pointed out to me, was the soil descriptions are poorly to very poorly drained soils and rapidly permeable. I don't know how you can get poor drainage and rapid drainage.
So those are just the soil characteristics as cited in that paragraph that come from I want to say it's the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I don't have it in front of me. So that's just verbatim from their website.
That's kind of weird, though. It doesn't drain, but then it's rapidly drains.
Yes,
I
sir.
didn't get that. The last thing on page 139 talked about the sewage, and we're trying to build up our capacity out there in that area, no doubt, because that's where we have sewer at in the county. But this paragraph refers to basically if capacity is currently available. What happens if the developer is building and all of a sudden we don't have capacity, or we don't have enough capacity for the remaining project? That's going to kind of put septic tanks, and that could change the whole thing.
We wouldn't permit septic tanks. We would require those new developments to connect to the septic or the sewage system, but they would be at the expense of the developer.
I get that, but if we don't have enough space,
That's what I'm saying. If we don't have capacity, the developer would have to foot the bill to get the capacity to where it needs to be for them to add their homes.
But what if they don't? Well, let's just say, for example, they're 75% built out. We're at capacity, and we're going to require the next 25% to go somewhere, but they don't have the room to go there.
That we wouldn't issue a building permit for
Okay.
that unit.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was my question.
Okay,
I have one more question. I didn't push my
go
button.
ahead, no, you're fine.
I know you mentioned the traffic study, but their exit is on which road?
So the ingress and egress for the site would be on East River Road.
But they
Yes,
did the
ma'am.
traffic study on Putnam County Boulevard?
I don't have it in front of me. I think it was both, though. I think they included East River and Putnam County Boulevard.
Okay, that's not, I don't know about that. Okay, we'll talk with the developer, okay.
Anybody else have anything for staff? Okay, so I'm assuming you're the agent for the owner?
Yes.
Would you give your name and address for the record, please?
Christina Evans with Matthews Design Group, 7 Waldo Street, St. Augustine. So this is the East River Estates PUD application. The property is located at the southwest corner of East River Road and Putnam County Boulevard. It's 55 acres. There are 43 acres of uplands and about 12 acres of wetlands. And you can see that's part of a larger wetland system to the south. And we're not proposing any impact to those wetlands. We've designed around them. The property is on the edge of the urban service area land use designation, and that is considered incompatible with the existing agricultural zoning. So it's meant to be a holding zone until the site is ready to be redeveloped with more intense uses once the urban services are available. Those include paved roads, stormwater, central water and sewer, all of which are available at this site. I also made a note that with the current agricultural zoning at 1 unit per acre, the property could be developed with 55 units and mobile homes would be permitted by right. So the rezoning to PUD is for a different type of residential development, similar to the residential manufactured home zoning district, but with several enhancements and restrictions, all within the parameters of the urban service area. So as I said, the zoning standards are similar to RMH zoning. I'll go over that on the next slide. The community is age restricted to 55 plus. The property owner also owns river villas, and based on their residents, a large portion of them are retirees and snowbirds. It will be a lot lease community with manufactured homes. The property and community are managed by a company similar to how an HOA would operate. The community includes private amenities like a pool, clubhouse, athletic courts. There is RV and boat storage for residents. Everything will be connected to central water and sewer from the connection across Putnam County Boulevard. And one thing we did discuss with Public Works was sewer capacity, and we had asked about coming up with a method to reserve sewer capacity from the beginning of the project. Our maximum number of units has been reduced from 215 when we started the project a year ago, down to 175, and since the Planning Commission meeting, further reduced to 160 units. Since it's limited to only 25 additional lots to be leased every year, it would take a minimum of 6.5 years for maximum capacity of the community. So here I've detailed the restrictions and enhancements to RMH zoning. It's limited to a lot less than the RMH density of 8 units per acre. We're currently now at a little less than 3 units per acre. And as Zach noted, the urban service area permits up to 24 units per acre. The internal streets are 20 feet. Similar to RMH, our main north-south street is 22 feet. RMH does not require internal sidewalks, and we have provided a 7-foot path along that main north-south roadway. It connects the clubhouse to the northeast corner of the development. We have 2 to 4 times more buffering around the perimeter of this development than RMH zoning would permit. The structure-to-structure side setbacks have increased since the Planning Commission meeting from 10 feet to 15 feet. So The architectural standards for the community require the accessory structures are attached to the main structure, so they are farther than the traditional code accessory setbacks. Here are the changes to the development agreement that were passed out earlier, changing the side structure to structure setback, just a domino effect, making the minimum lot width larger, the minimum lot area, and then reducing the maximum number of units in density. Looking at the surrounding area, there are larger residential lots to the north and west. Most of those are not within the same future land use category, but directly to the east and across Putnam County Boulevard are those higher density subdivisions going from 7 units per acre down to 5, 4, and then our development a little less than 3. You can see how it transitions a decrease in density as you leave the urban service area. And some of these denser subdivisions are already developed with mobile homes. And as Zach noted, when you do not impact the wetlands, you get to use that acreage in your calculation for density. So this is the layout, and the one that was passed out, the only difference is in the site data table for the number of units, density, and setbacks. So you have the residential in red. The recreation is at the southern terminus of the main roadway. The RV and boat storage is tucked between the preserved wetlands and the preserved trees. This shows the increased buffering along the perimeter. Towards the larger residential lots, there's a 20-foot buffer with a 6-foot fence. To the east, towards the more dense subdivision, you have a 10-foot buffer with a 6-foot fence. While the minimum lot depth is 90 feet, majority of the lots will exceed that. Over to the west, there's lots that will have 125 feet depth, 110 to the south, and those would be for double-wide mobile homes. Before any homes are set within the community, the owner is adding a left-hand turn lane. Internal path terminates in the northeast corner of the property, where there will be a gated pedestrian entrance. So residents don't have to walk on East River Road or Putnam County Boulevard. They can take that path to the corner, and there will be the crosswalks that the owner funded leading to the county park to the north and the multi-use trail to the east. Also at that intersection, the county is going to install a stop sign, so it's a 3-way stop. So now Rudd is going to talk about traffic.
Chairman, if I can real quick too, I looked at for Commissioner Wilkinson, I looked at the traffic study. It looked at both roads and the intersection as a whole.
Oh, I did look at them.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm Rudd Jones. I live at 283 East End Road. I work at Matthews Design Group in St. Augustine at 7 Waldo Street. Before I talk about traffic, just real quickly wanted to follow up on the comments about the water and sewer. It's available immediately adjacent to the site. There is capacity now for the addition of all these units. What's one of the important things about the project is being connected to public sewer. And that relates to the stormwater management design for the project. It will have to be permitted by the Water Management District. They have classified this section of the river as an impaired water body for fecal coliform, which to some extent is caused by homes on septic systems along the river. Mm-hmm. So this is not going to add to that problem. This will help correct that problem by being this type of development that will be on public sewer. Now, with respect to the traffic study that was done, a large part of the purpose for that study was determining whether or not a turn lane was necessary into the project. The study determined that it was not necessary based on the number of trips and the analysis that the traffic engineer did. That was with 215 units. We've now reduced to 160, which is about a 25% reduction in the number of people living there and in the number of trips that will be generated. But we're still going to be putting in that left-hand turn lane because it was a request of the county, basically. They felt like that was something, regardless of what the traffic study said, they felt like they wanted us to have a turn lane there for left turn movements into the community, so we did that. In some discussions with the public and others, I've heard concern about the traffic elsewhere in nearby areas, particularly in the vicinity of where the old Browning Pierce campus school is, behind Racetrack. And I wanted to touch on a couple of things here about the project. I don't know if can you see that map very well at all? Is it large enough? The property is located at that pin. I think you can all find it, the yellow pin. It says, I put my glasses on so I can read it. It says Ross Perkins. That's the developer. This project is really pretty ideally located from a traffic standpoint. There are 5 logical access routes to state roads from this property. If somebody there is going to be heading to St. Johns County or other areas along the East Coast, they in all likelihood are going to go north on Putnam County Boulevard to Old Cracker Swamp Road west and get to 207 that way. If they're going to South Putnam onto 207 and then to 17, they might take that same route, or they might go south to Lewis Brewer Road or south to McCormick Road and access 207 at that point and head towards South County. Those going to Palatka or west will likely stay on Putnam County Boulevard to US 17, either just to the east or just to the west of the racetrack. So there's 5 good logical routes to state roads from the property. If you look at how the trips are distributed in the traffic study, you can see that, let me get to the page for that. Okay. So for the existing traffic on the road has about 100, this is peak hour trips, the peak traffic hours of the day, about 118 trips heading east on East River Road. Most of those trips currently go to the south onto Putnam County Boulevard. There are 8 that go north out of that number. And you can see the background traffic on the map. So both AM and PM peak hour trips are on here. In the afternoon, the trips are primarily heading west on East River Road with folks going home. So this is the traffic that would be generated by the project with 215 units. You see during that AM peak hour, there's 43 cars that would be turning right out of the property, 4 going left. Of those 43 that go right, 32 go south on Putnam County Boulevard, and the remainder turn to the north. Again, it's kind of opposite in the afternoon, 42 trips coming in on East River Road, most of those coming up Putnam County Boulevard. This is a projection the traffic engineer did for the number of trips that would be generated by the year 2035 with the built-out traffic. And those traffic numbers have come to a total of 232 on Putnam County Boulevard heading south, 90 going north during the peak morning hours, 149 south, 271 north. And this is all traffic, not just the project, all projected traffic on those roads during that time. So if you look at the trips generated by the project itself, at the 160 units, that's the column in the center, it's 56 trips during the morning in the peak hour of traffic. That's about 1 trip a minute. For the PM peak, that's 64 trips, which is a little over 1 trip a minute. Overall, during the day, it's 884 trips total. That's trip ins, in and out. That's about 1 trip every minute and a half generated by the project. If we look at what the project would generate if it were built by right, by the current zoning, at 55 units, It generates almost the same number of trips as this project does, because this is a senior plus 55 community. It generates statistically far less trips than a standard development does. So you can look and see with the 55 units that could be built without having to go through this process, we're generating almost the same number of trips with the proposed community, which is going to be an amenitized community, and a lot held to much higher standards than would just be a by right subdivision. So those are the traffic issues that I think have had concerns expressed about. So with all those different access points to the state road, people will have a tendency to react to where there's traffic backup. So if there are plenty of other routes to go, if there higher traffic volumes are encountered in any one direction, people will tend to take the other routes. Same goes with existing traffic on the road. So I don't think that a trip a minute generated by this project is something that should be considered an impact sufficient enough to cause real concern about the development of it.
Any questions of Rudd,
I do.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just can't get past this reserve capacity in our sewage tank for 6 to 7 years. I understand that you probably would pay a minimum flow rate just to hold that number. But if it's really good for the river, we're trying to get more people on there.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, even with or without this development, we're trying to get more people along that river on our system. If we have to build out for 6 to 7 years and hold that in reserve, what does that really do for our river?
Well, I mean, I don't know the answer to you right now off the top of my head of how much capacity is left in the plant. It's a significant amount of capacity. It's not about to run out. But at some point in time, over the years, that capacity will run out.
Right.
And the county, I know, is looking into ways to expand that capacity. The existing plant has the ability to add more ribs, to add more capacity to the plant. We are working with the county right now on the Port Buena Vista project.
Right.
So that has taken that sewer plant off of the on-site type plant system. We're bringing it into the county's utility system. We're working on a plan to extend potable water down there to Port Buena Vista. We're working with the county on extending water services elsewhere in the county. We're working very closely with them on a lot of these projects. We know there are long-term plans to make improvements to expand water and sewer capacity to the area. But right now, the utility system has available capacity, which means it needs customers that pay those utility rates. Those help fund the maintenance of and expansion of utilities. So if the applicant chooses to reserve capacity for the whole project, then that's a financial agreement he makes with the county to reserve that capacity. He may choose to reserve only a portion of it, because it's an expense to do that. So it's all something that has to be considered.
Well, I wouldn't use the term reserve. You're going to be paying a minimum flow somewhere. So we're going to be anticipating something coming in, just not to the volume that we'll, at the end of build out, that we'll get. Is that right?
It's my understanding is that you're reserving capacity so that you're making some capacity unavailable. What the rate structure for that is, I don't know off the top of my head, but I can give you, complete
You're
answers
fine,
on
you're
that
fine.
at the next meeting.
Keep in mind, we haven't agreed to do that yet either, because I understand we're running at about 50% capacity, or maybe just shy of that. But if you look at some of the project that we've already got in design at the present time, like all the places down at Horse Landing, not including bringing in Buena Vista, and not including a lot of the projects that we have grants for at this present time that are in design, we're not going to be. In fact, our number one legislative priority this year was to try and get a grant to try and expand the existing sewer system.
Yes, sir.
And the reason why is because within the next 5 to 8 years, I believe we're going to be out of capacity. I believe we are.
I don't disagree with you, and that is a risk any developer takes when they develop a piece of property when there's not, essentially unlimited available capacity. They take a risk in spending the money developing a piece of property in anticipation that that available capacity will be there to serve them. If they reserve the capacity, they've paid the money for it, it's theirs. If they choose to not spend that money up front, I mean, this is going to take a number of years to develop out. It would be a big expense to try to reserve all the capacity up front. But there's a confidence in the community and a confidence in the county's ability to provide additional capacity because we need to grow. So we know that the county is working hard to provide that capacity. So in good faith, he's moving forward to begin the work on the project.
But in good faith, we're running pipes all over.
Yes.
And we're not hoping, but we're going to be asking people to hook up to our system. So right off the bat, if we know we're going to get close to capacity, we have to have a plan B. And we've already gotten grants to take off people on the river and horse landing and things like that. So there's an anticipation of that coming on board.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I don't want to get hung up on it. I just wanted to talk about that. That's
Well, I mean, the county's working to provide the additional capacity. If it's something that is going to stop growth in the county and people won't be able to develop, then, where are we? We've got, people have to be able to move forward and with confidence and know what they're going to be able to do.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pickens, did you have something?
Yeah, how long did you say if the project is approved, how long will the build-out take to complete?
The maximum rate we're taking down is 25 units a year.
Yeah, maximum build rate is 25 units.
So 6.
So will everything be built, and it'll be like a subdivision that never caught off the ground? Everything will be ready, but you'll be selling sections rather than half of this being done with half the roads?
The infrastructure I'm not certain yet of how we might phase the infrastructure. We could all be put in up front, all the sewer, all the water, all the drainage put in up front. Or they might choose to phase it in a couple of different phases to move forward with some of those expensive items that would just be sitting there not being used for the time until it's ready to be occupied. But there's cost savings in doing the work in larger batches. If you do a bunch of small projects, it winds up costing a lot more money. So the water management system, the ponds would all be done up front. That system would be in place. Exactly how much of the pavement would be done and how much of the water and sewer extension would be a financial decision based on what we project it would cost to do it all at once or in a couple of phases. And that's yet to be determined.
But yet, wouldn't you think that it would be a pretty important part of the decision-making on this side of the dais that we would feel more secure if we decided to approve it, that we would feel more secure if it was actually put in instead of half put in? Or not. Maybe some commissioners don't want it put in. I don't know.
Any phasing that would be done in a logical fashion. If you look at the site plan, I wouldn't be talking about paving half of a road. But for instance, I mean, the clubhouse area, the amenity center is stuff that obviously would go in first. So the main road obviously going to get built in at first. And Ross may say he's willing to do the whole thing all at once. But there's logical, you could develop the portion on the east and the clubhouse area and then come back in and fill in the loop roads later. You could come in and build all the stuff around the outside and come in and build the center road later and occupy that. So there's nothing, if it was a requirement to do it all at once, I expect he'd be willing to do that. But we just wanted to analyze it from the standpoint of making the best financial decision about how it's going to be developed.
Okay. Commissioner Wilkinson?
A couple questions. Is there going to be an entrance off of Putnam County Boulevard? It says in here that there's been some discussions, but I don't know if it's actually been required yet, a secondary emergency access entrance for fire and emergency services. Were you guys planning on that, or are you waiting for direction?
We're anticipating that's something that's going to be required, so we've planned for that contingency in the
Okay.
plan. It would be probably a stabilized access with a Knox lock at the gate so that only the emergency services could access it and use it. But it's required for projects over a certain number of units when there's only one entrance that could potentially be blocked by a wrecked car or something like that. And they need to be able to get fire trucks and emergency vehicles in beyond that point if there was a problem.
Okay, and then I see you've got your crosswalk striping that's going to be going in at the corner there, but you're still not looking to do any kind of internal sidewalks, is that correct?
Just the sidewalk, basically sidewalk bike path that would go along the main trunk road from the amenity center and over to that corner
Okay,
and back.
all right.
We see the bike trail as being an amenity that the residents here might make good use of.
Any more at this time? Thank you, Rudd.
Thank you, sir.
I just wanted to make a comment on the phasing of the project. In Section 3 of the development agreement, we had proposed to do all of the clearing, grading, and master stormwater systems for the entire property from the beginning, along with the left-hand turn lane. And then we have the option to just do that northeastern portion for all the other infrastructure and get that portion ready, and not necessarily have to do the western half unless it is more cost effective. But that is in Section 3.4.
Okay, thank you. Does that finish your presentation at this time from the applicant?
No.
Okay. Well, be nice to know.
Thank you.
Would you give your name and address
Yeah,
for the
Russ.
record, please, sir?
Yeah, Russ Perkins, 201 Woodland Lane, Carmel. I just wanted to spend a couple minutes or start with the community itself. So it's going to be a Section 723 community, prospectus community, which basically means all of the rules and regulations are governed by this prospectus, which is approved by the state. I've tried to provide on this slide, and I know you have a copy of this, some examples of some of the rules that are in there. There's the ability to, if a resident is selling a home, the new resident has to be approved by the community. They have, in addition to a background check. There's no subleasing in the community. It basically governs, those rules and regs govern the integrity of the community, the ongoing maintenance of the community, and also even the behavior of the residents. And I've given 3 examples here on this slide. In terms of like the architecture or integrity of the community, residents are not allowed to alter any physical appearance in their homes unless it's approved by the community. And it could actually be, the community has the ability to correct that improvement if they don't agree with it at the owner's expense. As far as just the ongoing community maintenance, again, this is just an example out of that prospectus, but each mobile home or manufactured home has to be kept in a certain condition, and any kind of debris or any untrimmed bushes, et cetera, can be corrected at the owner's expense. The behavior that I reference, really there's just in the rules and regulations, the person who's moving into the community initials and signs the prospectus agreeing to all of those rules and regulations. So even guests are held to those rules while in the community. And the prospectus can be enforced through, as I mentioned a moment ago, either fines for specific finable offenses or even a termination of the lease if necessary. The architectural standards, that's something else that I had submitted to the county, a copy of those rules. That's also in the prospectus as well. And this is just an example of some of the architectural standards, that are governed through the prospectus, like the type of siding that can be used, the type of roof that can be used, the pitch of the roof. There are no no window air conditioners. It's all central HVAC. The homes are set in a way that there's only one step into the threshold. They're not set up in the air. They're actually semi-pit set, and then the outside terrain is built up around them so that they appear to be stick-built homes. They'll all have attached garages, carports, and sheds, and they will also all have concrete drives 12 feet wide. And all of the homes will have irrigation and sod that come in the community. So here's just a street view of two homes we set in River Villas. This would be just an example of new homes in the community, and the setbacks are very similar. So this is a similar front yard setback and also side yard setback. And you can also get a sense of the kind of the elevation of the homes and how they're set. So, any questions? I'm going to turn it over to somebody else.
Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a little confused on what Section 723. Is that the state preempting local government from imposing rules or anything in that nature?
So when I referenced a Section 723 community, that's a state set of guidelines that you can use as, in the form of a binding, basically set of
Could you pull that microphone up?
Oh, sorry. So it's a specific type of community that has a written set of rules and regulations that are approved by the state out of Tallahassee. And I did include a copy of the prospectus for this community in this filing, but everything from the type of lease agreement to all of the activity, the who's responsible for what, everything really that is establishing the rules really of the community is in that agreement.
So why does the state have to be involved in a local decision?
Great question. I don't know. I just know that for these types of communities, they are involved, and there's not literally a single word that you can change on that prospectus without it getting approved.
All right.
So Harvey, I think it has to do with trying to create a uniform standard across the state. Same way with condominiums. I mean, they have a lot of condominium rules that are the same across the state. So that's when people go to Tallahassee and complain, they've got the same set of rules that everybody else has in the state. That's just my opinion.
Next question I have, the floodplain. You said that you're going to pretty much, you didn't say this, but this is how I interpreted your conversation, where you're going to lower the mobile home so it only has one step up. But we have mobile home requirements that need to be set up above the floodplain. So are you altering the land enough that manipulates the floodplain, basically?
Yeah, so any of the uplands that we're developing are not in a floodplain. Okay. But in addition to that, we do also elevate the dirt around that home so that it actually would be set down below the surrounding dirt and then provide drainage around the home.
That's all the questions I have.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions of Mr. Perkins?
I have one. How will you be handling solid waste? Are you going to work with Waste Pro, or are you going to have a dumpster on site, or how are you handling that?
It's going to be similar to River Villas, where we provide the Waste Pro. It's going to be basically a trash can service.
Okay.
Yeah, per home, not a dumpster.
Okay.
At this point, I'd like to invite up Terry.
I've got one.
Oh, yeah.
One more question. With the set of rules that you have that would govern, I guess, the people that live in that particular development, who has the final say? I guess you have a board of directors, homeowners association. Would it ever revert back to the county for enforcement, or it would be civil matter through courts?
It would really be, I think, the latter. So if we have an issue with a resident and, we're not collecting fines or something of that nature, I think is what it really is the community that's enforcing those rules. And, I know I mentioned a moment ago, but the residents, when they move in addition to the background check, and they also will sign off not only with their lease agreement, but they're reviewing and initialing and signing the prospectus when they move in.
Okay. Just trying to make sure they're not going to call the commissioner in that district if this passes
Understand?
about enforcement.
I'm going to give them Bill Pickens as
Yeah, but I'm not the commissioner in this district, so anyway, okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, any other questions?
I think that's good. Do you have somebody else?
I just wanted to invite up Terry Whitmore. He's actually become a friend over the years. He's helped me with a number of the new home sets new homes in River Villas, and has been a great resource for me. And he could maybe talk a little bit more intelligently than I can about the type of homes that are going in the community. So,
You would give your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Yes, sir. My name is Terry Whitmore. I'm the sales and marketing manager for Townhomes in Lake City, Florida at 133 Newell Drive. So Ross asked me to come out and talk to you guys a little bit today, basically about the construction and build of the houses that you've seen in the photos here. And I'll have a few more I'll show you here in a moment. But really just talking about, because I know there's concern, or I've heard concern, or them being referred to as trailers or so on and so forth. And just brief history lesson. 1976 is when we changed it over to HUD code, and that's when they started to be called mobile or manufactured housing. Previous to that, which I learned and thought was interesting, that's when they were built to ANSI code. So ANSI code is what RVs and campers and so on are built to. So that's where the term trailer came from, is when they were actually built under ANSI code previous to 1976. So I say that with the new HUD housing and rules that they've put into place, they're very well-built houses, and I'm going to dig into that the next few minutes just to let you know and kind of go over some details on that. Hopefully to be able to put your mind at ease if you're upset at all with any of the construction of how the houses will be built. Let's see. So just kind of digging into it here, I'll go over. So talking about manufactured housing as a whole, the HUD adapts every 2 to 3 years. It updates and changes with the times. Right now, as a standard, just as an FYI, and this is also a standard in site built, is exterior walls are 2x4. So I've actually brought a few here for just to look at, because the picture can actually do a little bit, but actually seeing it in person is a big difference as well. So a 2x4 exterior wall with half-inch drywall. On the exterior for HUD and some site built as well, you can use a foam core or thermoply, which is that. You'll see the picture here, townhomes on the backside. All of the manufactured houses that we build has a 2x6 exterior wall. It's going to have an OSB exterior sheathing. If you're not familiar with OSB, it's Oriental strand board. It's kind of a plywood type of material. So you take that with the half-inch drywall, you have a good sturdy exterior build of your home. And then you move to the interior of it. Our interior walls are 2x4, and the HUD code is going to require 2x3. So we're also going to be a step above there when you're looking at these houses. Probably one of the more important, and I think one of my favorite things when I found out, I've been in the industry a couple of years, and when I found this out, I just assumed, hey, probably every manufacturer does this. It's not the case. Down the center line of our house, as a manufactured house has 2 halves most of the time, 3 sometimes they have to be put together. So that's called the marriage line of the house. So when we put ours together, we have a double 2x4 marriage wall. And what that is all the way down the center of the house, if there's a 2x4, there will be a matching brother or sister 2x4 on the other side. We also have OSB on that all the way down the center of the house. So really, down the marriage line, you're going to have a 2x8 once the house is laid and set together, along with OSB on either side and drywall. So you're going to have all that extra lumber. Again, HUD code does not require that. HUD is a 2x4 down the center line. Usually what a lot of manufacturers will do is put a singular 2x4 and drywall on each side of it. That's your center line. So we're going to have a 2x8 plywood and drywall. So when you think of site built, same thing. Site built obviously doesn't have a marriage line, so the center of their house is just going to be their interior wall, which would be a 2x4. So that's going to be something if you're considered at all or upset with any type of the building, in my honest opinion, I think the actual building of the manufactured houses in a factory setting, and we have some of the higher standards of townhomes that even exceeds HUD code and rivals or is right there with manufacturing site build as well. So I'm going to go, we talked about the exterior. We've talked about kind of the code a little bit on how it's been changed to HUD code. It changes every year. The biggest stigma with manufactured housing is again, the exterior and interior. So we've talked about the build, the exterior. You've seen some photos of what's set at River Villas. And now I'm going to go into a little bit of the interior of our houses, and I'll just walk and talk through a few of these as I flip through. I just have 4 or 5 photos to show you of some of our best-selling models that we had. So if you look at these, this particular model has a 9-foot ceiling, manufactured housing, and most site build, I know the site build I live in is 8 foot. So it's nice that you have an option like this to do a 9-foot ceiling and upgrade. Honestly, about 75 to 80% of our orders are upgraded to a 9-foot ceiling. And you can notice with the transom windows above the windows to bring in extra light. Our flooring is a seamless transition flooring across the marriage line. It's going to be individually laid pieces, so there won't be any type of transition you can tell from where the two halves are put together. We're going to have the OSB flooring sheathing. You'll see on the ceiling as well is going to be seamless across the marriage line. This is a temporary set where you'll see a piece across the top. That'll be seamless when it's permanently set. All of our countertops are 36-inch height, which is same as site built, but not required in HUD code. So moving along, this is a nice large living space. We have 1/2-inch drywall throughout. It's going to be the same as site built. That's the same as they use. So if you have any issues, you can go to Lowe's, Home Depot, repair it, and buy a $10 patch kit and get that fixed, no problem. So running through, again, this is one of our best sellers called the Key Largo. Big open kitchen, nice dining room area. And this, again, is just to kind of show you the type of product that we build. Townhomes is locally owned and operated, created by Gary Towns about 19 years ago. So with that being said, matter of fact, I think we may be the only locally owned and operated manufacturer left in Florida with some of the recent purchases that's happened. I don't believe there's another one. So we do have 200 employees in Lake City, Florida. It's about an hour and a half northwest of here, I believe. So we have 200 employees counting our factory and our office personnel. And just want to show you kind of what Gary Towns, when he created it, his envision is building a good, sturdy house, which you'll see with the 2x6 wall over a 2x4, 2x4 interiors over 2x3, double 2x4 marriage wall, and then just looking at the interior here. I didn't want you to think just because it's a tank, it has to be ugly on the interior either. These all look very nice, full finishes, 1/2-inch drywall, all the things that most site built do, and above actually what HUD requires in most places. Our bathrooms, we all have durability features throughout everything we do. China sinks, metal faucets, fiberglass tubs and showers. As you see here in this photo, they've actually did a ceramic shower, which is put into about, I'd say a little over half of the manufactured houses that we do. So get a nice ceramic in there as well instead of just fiberglass. But that's really it, is I'm just here to talk about the construction of the houses, kind of hopefully get rid of some of the stigma that's been around when it was built under the ANSI code years prior. These are really good, sturdy built houses. They're built in a factory setting. It takes us about 4 weeks and a couple days to build a house, from the day we start putting the flooring in to the day it gets through our RTS department ready to ship. So with that, we also have federal inspectors. We have a state inspector that's in twice a week. They're going to come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays just to make sure everything's up to HUD code, which we far exceed that at townhomes. Then we have federal inspectors come in once a year, and they come in on a Monday morning and don't leave till a Friday afternoon. They're there for an entire week and top to bottom. So we build our houses well. We have if it takes us a month and a couple days to build a house, and we have state inspectors in twice a week, every house is going to be looked at by state inspectors at least 8+ times.
Mr. Whitmore, I get it, you're building a hell of a house.
Yes, sir.
Are you about to wrap it up?
I am actually,
Okay.
right at the end of it. Thank you, sir. And that's actually, you got a good segue to the end of it there. The last thing I was going to say, we do have another meeting coming up, as we've discussed earlier. So in between that time, if you guys are interested, I am about an hour and 20 minutes from here at the factory. I'd love to have you come up, have a factory tour with us. If you're interested, let me know after the meeting or so on. I'll have my card for you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is that bottle of water full?
Just a couple more comments to wrap up. And, this is something we touched on in the planning and zoning meeting, and I know it's been a little bit of a hot button also in terms of really what is the perceived amount of tax benefit to the county. I had pulled up a copy of the trim card for the current property as farmland, and then also the only comparison I could really make was River Villas. While that's in a more rural setting, it does give us an idea of what current tax rates are if you think of the home price or cost of tax revenue per home. So if we have 83 homes in River Villas and our tax bill last year was about 32.8, if we were to fully build out over a number of years, and we actually are fortunate to have 160 homes in the community, I'm just using a simple ratio to get to 61.3 on taxes, but that's a nice big jump from the farm tax assessed value. I think is a huge positive for the county. This next slide, these are the last three comps that I had from River Villas, and in the spreadsheet you can see our actual closing prices, the date that they closed. Down at the bottom of that spreadsheet, the price per square foot, the selling price per square foot, and 259, 224.9, 214.9. And if I look at this and say, well, let's just say I round that down, I think these homes are going to be a little bit more appealing, and certainly the location is going to be better. But you say 215 times 160, there's about $34 million worth of home sales. It is going to bring in some state revenue and state sales tax, and also some county tax. I think the bigger positive for the community is ongoing jobs, contractors, services, goods, realtors, any kind of ongoing community operations throughout the year. It is a 55-plus community, which basically means there are no children living in the community, so there is no impact on schools. I am, footing the bill for all of the upfront cost of building it out, and of course, because it's owned as a community, all of the ongoing related expense to the community is borne by me. Roads, infrastructure, utilities, et cetera. So, the thing I pointed out last time, and I would hope that this information should be very relevant, is I was able to find a couple pieces on the 55-plus senior community around Florida and the impact that it has on the state's economy. There were a couple points that stuck out in the article on the right from the Tampa Bay Times. I thought it was interesting to note that that segment of the community accounts for not quite 2/3 of the local economic activity. And then if you look at the spend per year on the article from the Sun Sentinel, and it's a couple years ago, it was in 2021, they put the estimate of household spend per year somewhere between 13 to 20. I think even if we round that down, that's a nice economic boost and impact. This is a more recent article I found, and I added actually for this meeting. In January, this is from the Florida Realty Marketplace, and they were giving facts about the snowbirds. And in River Villas, just slightly over half of the residents are snowbirds. And it's a little counterintuitive to me to think, well, these folks, are they really putting a lot of money into the local economy if they're here only half the year? I know Rudd made that comment that, from a traffic perspective, they're here, half the community may only be here 6 months out of the year and then gone. So they're not really fully taxing the sewer, water system, roads, et cetera. But surprisingly, they are almost more like a mindset that they're on vacation. Most of those residents, even at River Villas, I don't think more than 10% of them have jobs. They're either living on pensions or Social Security, income from assets, whatever, and so they aren't putting commutes on at 9 to 5, commuting into Palatka, but they are still spending money in the community. And this point 8 from this article was saying that that even the snowbirds, the average in a community 6 months out of the year, are putting somewhere between 10 to 21,000 a year each into the local economy. And so if I round that down to the 10 times, let's say 150, so there, again, I would hope over time as it's built out that there's another $2 to $3 million of economic activity on an ongoing basis. So I see all of those as real positives for the, for the local economy. I'm just going to let Christina round up here. So-
I have a real quick
Yeah,
question for you.
sure.
Commissioner Adams got his light on.
Only because you brought it up in part of your presentation about attracting seniors. I think Putnam County is very attractive to seniors today. The average cost of a home is $250,000. So it's actually cheaper to live in a home out on a lot somewhere on 2 acres somewhere in the county than it would be to be in your particular location, based on the fact you have lot rent and everything else. So I think that argument doesn't hold a whole ton of water right now, considering the economy and the way that Putnam County is already geared towards that particular segment of our population. I only bring it up because you brought it up.
Can I comment on that, actually? I think that's a great point, because if I look at River Villas and the residents are spending $495 a month to live in that community, and of course there's a reason that they choose to live in a community like that as opposed to out in a more isolated area away from other people. But in there, they're getting water, sewer, trash, lawn care, irrigation, and use of all of the amenities. So the actual cost for them is really very affordable. And when they're spending $215, $220 on a home, and then they don't have related expenses to the maintenance and all of those other water, sewer, trash, et cetera, it's really very affordable. So.
Commissioner Wilkinson?
In your presentation, you mentioned realtors as for job creation. So are you saying that independent realtors can sell those houses within your community?
So as you know, you probably know, they could be paid a fee to sell the home, but they can't be paid a commission. So there is a distinction. If a licensed realtor in Jacksonville wanted to sell a home in the community, they can actually get paid a fee to sell that home, but they can't be paid a commission.
Okay.
Okay.
So I will very quickly wrap this up and save a lot of it for the next meeting, but I just wanted to go over at the end the county's land development regulations for PUDs and rezonings, and how the purpose of a PUD is to differ slightly from traditional zoning. The findings for a rezoning is that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. So we've gone through the urban service area, urban infrastructure. It's well under the density. It also meets policies regarding infill development, efficient use of existing infrastructure, preserving the natural environment. The second is about differing in one or more aspects from the standards in the code. And again, we went over the differences from RMH zoning. The third finding is that it accomplishes one or more of the purposes listed in section 45221. So I pulled some of those and highlighted some of the words that apply to this development: innovative residential, integration of housing types, accommodation of changing lifestyles, the internal and external convenience for travel by foot and bicycle, modest setbacks, front porches, connected streets, flexibility for changing needs and economics and consumer preferences, preserving the natural environment, and quality of life design features, parking on the side, front porches, and aligned building facades that face the street. The fourth and fifth findings are a lot of lists in there, but it talks about how it would be inconvenient to process this outside of the PUD process. So it would not necessarily fit in the residential mobile home zoning category, and we added all the other restrictions, the lesser density, and it just makes it easier to operate as an age-restricted lot-lease community with all the community rules and regulations. And then the last finding for rezoning applies to agricultural land use, which this is not. It is the urban service area. So if you have any questions.
Any questions? Not at this time, it looks like. Okay, we're going to start the public comment. First, I'd like to call Mr. David Girardin. And I'd like to request that everybody do their best to hold this to 3 minutes apiece, please.
Take it easy on y'all.
Yes, sir, I know you will.
My name's David Girardin. I live at 105 Shores Lane, East Palatka, Florida. I guess my primary concern with this is that, we've got development is coming. We know that. I guess I'm concerned about the type of development that we want. We've got approximately 26,000 platted mobile home lots still in Putnam County. And the idea of placing a mobile home park or a trailer park in this particular area to me is a little bit strange, but I think it's just misplaced. I really do. And I would like to see this area maintain itself in more of a, I hate to put it in this term, but not in a more quality type of development. So those are all our concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
David?
Next.
Mr. Girardi, real quick, you mentioned that there was 26,000 mobile home lots. There's 26,000 lots. We do have some builders out there that are combining lots and building homes. So they're not just dedicated to mobile homes. They're just platted lots, that's all.
My understanding was that they were specifically small unit things like.
Yeah, they're small, but some developers are putting 2 and 3 together to fit their floor model. So that's a good thing for us.
I stand corrected. Thank you
You're
very
fine.
much, sir.
Next, Miss Linda Girardin. I guess I should have let you go first, shouldn't I? That wasn't.
Linda Girardin, 105 Shores Lane, East Palatka. We sent an email out to each one of you individually outlining our concerns, and some of them have been addressed for clarity, and I do appreciate that. So I'm not going to bore you with that, but to me, the future land use map, designations, even comp plans are all planning tools. They're designed today for the future, and none of us has 2020 vision into the future. And I don't think that what has been identified for this property is the appropriate designation given today. And if you look out here in the audience, there's a lot of people here who live on East River Road, and they're 55 and over. So, I mean, we know what's there. Somebody on the Planning Commission actually made the comment that when they developed the map and everything, they never anticipated land-leased homes. And to me, that's very critical. People who have ownership of the land are going to have a lot more value on it. We used to have rental property, not again. We moved here 45 years ago because we liked the community. We liked the agriculture, we liked the wooded lots, we liked the community. This development is not in line with that. Now, I will say, when we first moved here, there was a trailer park on East River Road. It was on a long, thin lot, maybe 1 or 2 trailers, and they were trailers out on the road. Very nice treed lot. Right now, it's a beautiful single-family home. So what you're trying to change our community into by approving this PUD is not what most people bought into, literally bought into, when we moved to this area. I think Mr. Perkins has just picked the wrong location for his development. That's it, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda. I know that we want to do that, but please refrain. That's just going to make the meeting take longer, okay? I would appreciate it. Thank you. Next, Miss Susan Grandjury. I know I butchered your name.
My brother-in-law used to say, Grand like piano and George like Washington.
Grand George, okay.
Hi, I'm Susan Grandgeorge, and I live at 107 St. John's Boulevard in East Palatka. There, oh, you know, I also brought copies. You want those now?
If it's at your email, we have it.
Better hurry, it's running out. I'll start it back. Okay, I'm gonna start you back.
Yeah, I'm going to start me now. Okay. There are multiple issues of concern in this whole proposal, and I'm going to try and just list them quickly, a sentence each in different categories. One's financial, and I think that point's been made up with leased lots bring a tag fee to the county, which is considerably less than what land-owned property taxes bring to the county, those taxes which are to pay for all these said services that the development will require. Two is affordability. I think it was Paul that just made that point. You can buy a home for $250 with land, and these are costing $225, and that's not even owning the lot. Three is environmental. I don't think Rob Madison's here now, but he was at the Planning Commission meeting. He's an environmental scientist, and he brought the point that the storm runoff may not be compliant with the phosphorus nitrogen reduction policies as a result of there being more impervious surface, which of course increases the runoff into the river, which is being restricted at the moment. Four is trust or integrity in the developer. I mean, the development is being touted as being like River Villas. This applicant only obtained River Villas in 2016, and since then he reduced the structure set-offs from 20 to 10 to get more units in there. Also downgraded the quality of the foundations, the skirting, and the amount of landscape included in the rental fees. Five is need. Villa Farms is not very far away, and it has multiple lots to be rented and homes to be purchased, so where is the need for it? The next is county image, in that the PUD has requirements for sidewalks and widths of streets, and these are being waived for no real need that I can see. Seven is it in the county and residents' best interest? Well, regarding senior citizens, who needs sidewalks and wider streets more than senior citizens with their walkers and their wheelchairs? Someone asked about sidewalks, and they said, well, no, we don't have sidewalks, but we have this path to get you out, which is kind of not a comparison. Plus, there's no contribution to the county's sidewalk fee fund, which is required when sidewalks are not provided. Another category is opposition. I know that's important to the Board of County Commissioners. You know, are your constituents happy or not? And obviously there is opposition. And then I have some personal points. I've owned my property since 2003, sitting with bated breath, hoping for municipal water and sewage and perhaps natural gas. And that point has been made. This is no doubt going to put me at the bottom of the list, and that's a very personal. Is that my beep?
That's your beat.
That's my beep. Okay, I wanted to say one comment on the second hearing. Not that I like at all the idea of coming back to the refrigerated space, but it does permit those that work during the day with uncompromised leave to come and voice their opinions if it's after 5 o'clock, and that may have been a point. Another point is that I was away until the 10th of October, and I have not seen a sign on East River Road announcing this meeting since. So those are just community participation input from a community participant. Thank you for your time.
Vernon Grand George, got it right that time.
You're a quick learner, aren't you?
You're going to have to, we record the meeting, you're going to have to give your name and address for that.
Vernon Grand George, 107 St. John's Boulevard, East Palatka. In the interest of saving time, and since I'll be seeing you in a couple of weeks, I will pass my time. My wife said most of our points. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrea Conover. She had to leave, okay. She can come to the next one, Mr. Ray Bunton. I see you back there, so you haven't left. Have a handout. Okay.
I need a wheelbarrow.
I know, right?
This handout is the same thing that I emailed all of y'all and had the pleasure to talk with you about. I'll back up first. Ray Bunton, 147 Dancy Avenue, East Palatka. And what is in there, again, is the 5 bullet points, which I will not go over in great detail. But, you know, we had questions how the application was reviewed by staff. I have questions about converting valuable agricultural land to residential use. And then the county roads in that area. All 3 county roads that were discussed are substandard widths with substandard right-of-ways, which the last picture shows the no shoulder sign falling into the ditch on East River Road right near the intersection with Putnam County Boulevard. I'm sorry, this is the one on Putnam County Boulevard. So there's no standard width roads. None of that was covered in the traffic study. There was no discussion in the traffic study about seasonal agricultural traffic, some of which takes up a lane and a half when they're moving big implements. So there's a lot of questions there. The biggest thing I wanted to talk about is what we value because we're out there. And the one thing we value is the rural character of this part of Putnam County. And we value our agricultural neighbors who put food on our table, employ many full-time individuals, and many more seasonal employees who all spend money here. And I value getting to know more of our neighbors who have come forward to actively oppose this proposed project. And we do value the Planning Commission and the amount of time they took to hear everyone's comments on this subject. We really value their recommendation to deny this application and hope that you will do so as well. And we very much value your concern and dedication to our county. And something came up last night. I was watching the Ken Burns 2-part series about American buffalo. And they interviewed this one lady, and she said, well, if you make important decisions, you should base your decisions on the impact 7 generations down the road. And I thought, to me, that was pretty profound. It may sound pretty hokey, but y'all are charged with having the long view of where we're going to go, and I don't think this is where we want to go. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. Andrew Kittner. Give us your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Yes, sir. Andrew Ketterer, 215 Federal Point Road. I'm a few miles from the proposed site here in a personal capacity today. I'm in favor of growth and housing development in the county. I really am. It's coming, and we need to embrace it. But we need to embrace it wisely. You know, I listened to the presentation explaining how great and how good and sturdy built these houses are. Yet they're not taxed as houses. They're taxed as trailers. There is, admittedly so, there is a higher tax amount on this property than would be the case if it was just an unimproved lot. But it is far, far from what it could be if this exact plan was brought to fruition, with one exception, that the lots are sold to the owners, not as a trailer park, but as a community, moving forward, moving this county forward. This isn't, in its current state, this is an exploitation of the county by one man to make money. That's what it is. It places a load on the county of hundreds of residents who will be paying taxes collectively at 1/10 what it should be, and what most everybody in this room and everyone on the board in front of me likely pay. You know, the county recently passed a $250 billion referendum for schools in this county, desperately needed. The way to achieve that, the way to invest in our future, is not to approve development taxed at the equivalent of 1/10 of what it should be. We need housing in this county, and we want to have developments like this, fine. Put in the extra lanes. Bring in the economy. Build them. Build these sturdy built houses and sell them. You want to have an HOA? Excellent. Trash collection? Fine. Sidewalks, paths, great. Pools, excellent. Sell it as property, as real property with houses built on them, permanent houses, not taxed as trailers. It's better for owners, it's better for business in this county, and it's better for the people of this county. I think there's some other folks who are going to talk to the dollar values on some of these, so I won't dive into that, but I would like to reiterate that it looks like this is about, the tax revenue to the county per house is about $372. That's the $60,000 projected tax on the entire property, versus what individual houses would be at the level of $250,000 or $225,000. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Debbie Griffin? Howard, you need to get ready. You're next.
My notes said to say good morning, Commissioners, but since it's obviously well into the afternoon, I'll say good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for this time. My name is Debbie Griffin. I live at 1710 Bellamy Road, Keystone Heights, Florida. That's my mailing address. The 911 address is different and the phone number is different. We actually live in West Putnam County. We live on the dividing road between Clay and Putnam. We purchased, my husband and I purchased recently a lot at 125 Oak Haven, and so we're new to the community, but we're happy to be there, and we appreciate all that you guys do and all that our neighbors have done. The things that I wanted to point out today is to remind you that the Planning Commission voted against your approval of this subdivision of this PUD. There was some concern about the safety because of the being able to get fire trucks in there. And I'd like to also point out that because we're in the process of building, that our taxes are going to be horrific, and restrictions that we're subject to that this gentleman would like to not be subject to. I think that most of my neighbors would agree, most of the community would agree that we've tried our best to join the community. This gentleman has not tried to join the community, but is rather asking for exceptions. And what we're saying is that just because you can agree to do this doesn't mean that you should agree to do this. This is wrong. It's wrong because he hasn't joined the community. It's wrong because of many things. And we thought that we were buying into an area that would not be affected by the zoning because it was zoned agriculture. We did not know that this was a holding position and that you guys have the right to change things if you want to change it. So thank you very much for my time, and I appreciate it, and my 3 minutes are probably close to being up.
Thank you. Howard?
How do you expect him to follow Debbie? You know,
That's his problem.
Well, the boss has already spoken, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm Howard Griffin, 1710 Bellamy Road. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, commissioners. And we have some heartburns with this, and I'm here in operation. I'm here in opposition to this high-density mobile home park. The PUD that's being requested is asking for a number of waivers, incentive, and we consider those incentives if they're provided, and special considerations. Just to go through some of these, and let me tell you, it's difficult to follow the process on this because it's a shell game, or at least from my perspective, because the first time we got the whole plan, we prepared our case on the whole plan, then we went to the community meeting. Somewhere behind the scenes, everything changed. Then we went to the Planning Commission. the more changes happen, it's awfully hard. So some of these things, if I quote things that are incorrect, it's not because I intended to do it. It's because of the fact that there's things that have been changed as a result of these meetings. But we're of the opinion that if this thing should go through, the last thing you should do is offer incentives or waivers and so forth. Let's do this thing right, because this is a 55 and over community. And one thing that was changed that I learned today is the turn lane was there. That was going to be after a certain number of homes were sold, and that apparently has been changed. There are also the highways, or the streets in there were different because of the fact that initially they were going to have 22-foot entries and 20-foot roads within the community, and the streets within the city or within the county, I thought, were 66 feet, and that included the right-of-ways and so forth. The developer, this is a 55 and over community, but we're not having sidewalks. I mean, where are these people with wheelchairs and walkers and canes? How are they supposed to get around on a 20-foot street whenever you have two cars that are passing there? It's going to be the same as on East River Road. If you ever tried to pass a tractor or a bicycle or something there, it's a goat rodeo. Instead of the sidewalk and turn lights, they want to put stripes on the street. That's nothing. That won't last 6 months before that'll all be gone. You know, I mean, if you're going to have 55 and over, and if I'm trying to get across the street, and believe me, I'm over 55, I'd say, I need more than stripes on the street. What we're seeing here is that I think there's a public safety issue with a high-density mobile home park. If there's one fire, there's going to be 2 fires, and there's going to be 3 fires. And with small streets, you can't get the right apparatus in there to fight those kind of things. We're building ourselves another Hawaii, Maui, and we don't need to do that. We're saying the residents there, we're concerned about what is being done here. We would appreciate very much that you send this back to, it's not out of the oven yet. It's not baked properly. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next, I'm going to ask Molly Mulligan to come forward.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. It's a lot more nervous to be up here. I've been thinking about this issue since the beginning. I've attended most of the meetings in hopes of understanding the process. And I'm not educated in the process of ordinances and zonings. I understand a lot of the points that are being brought up by those who have been here for a long time, nor do I take the decision that you have to make lightly. And while it may cost me another day of work, I'm glad that more questions will be asked about this plan. At the last meeting, as one of our members brought up, one of the most honest but disheartening statements that came from the planning board member when they took the vote to vote against this development. The message conveyed was, we may have created this problem when it was initially approved to change the zoning for development, but I don't think that this is what we had in mind. You all know that strong families build strong communities. And it was the recent tragedy of a local family and its amazing positive effect on its having in this community that compelled me to speak today. This county was built by strong families like Beaton and Bronson. They gave us history. The Beck family supporting the Ark and sponsoring festivals and boxcar Sundays. In my neighborhood alone, we have a young couple who moved when they were having a family here to raise their children. They're thriving in the school district, and their mother owns a small business downtown. Around the corner from me, another young couple moved here to raise their daughter, and the mother was the 2022 Teacher of the Year and is now part of the math improvement team for Putnam County School System. I have a friend with a third-generation last name who is retired, but still enjoys dressing up with holiday costume to help teach her grandchild's class history lessons, perhaps about Bartram, And I think that these are values that Putnam County wants to hold in their hearts. I am a transplant of 8 years, but I'm a member of a big family in a small river town, much like Palatka. I'm a third-generation name from that small town. My father was a football coach and a baseball coach, so his kids could play ball just like the kids here in Putnam County. And it was usually funded by the local Legion, where we had potluck meals and all of those values that we hold dear to our hearts. We grew up working for our neighbors, participating in homecoming parades, much like many of the families did this past week or weekend. Hopefully it was a week-long adventure. Church bazaars, 4th of July celebrations, all of the things that I have witnessed in Putnam County in my 8 years being here. In an attempt to revitalize and bring tourism to our little town, it turned into a beautiful historic town attracting retirees. As you can see, we're all over 55. We do not need another 55 community. And Florida's known as the waiting room for God, so there's plenty of 55-year-old communities, but I'm nowhere near a wheelchair yet. However, that being said, 1985, I understand my time is up, but this is the most important point. My graduating year of school, the local high school band went to Florida for a competition with 62-plus members in the band. On a recent trip home, that band is struggling at 12, playing their heart out to represent their county. I understand and appreciate what this county has to offer, but what I am not doing is sending my kids to school, sending them to horseback riding lessons, dancing lessons, karate lessons, going downtown for a piece of pizza, shaved ice cream. I am not building and growing in this community. I'm just enjoying the beautiful assets it has to offer. I think that we need to look forward to growing families, not somebody's pocket. I got short on some of my notes, but I think you guys are smart enough to get the point. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Clint Porch.
Hi, good afternoon. Clint Porch, 111 Mauritania Point Road, East Palatka. And I'm going to save you a presentation that I had today since I'm going to be back in a couple of weeks. Trust me, it's fantastic. I'll share the results with you all next week, but basically, you've heard a very common theme. Stuff's complicated with government. Changes with government are very complicated. So I commissioned my own compatibility study. I think we've heard a lot about whether this new community is compatible in East Palatka. So I really look forward to sharing those results. Trust me, they're fantastic. Aside from that, what I did want to leave the commission with is a thought. Somebody mentioned we don't have a time machine, we don't have a crystal ball, we don't know what this thing's going to look like in 20 years. I would challenge that and say, drive on 95. When you get to Fort Lauderdale, look east, look west, you'll see a sea of high-density housing that's been there for 30, 40 years. That's what we don't want coming to East Palatka. So I'll see the rest of my time and make sure that you all get a copy of the fantastic report that really shows how incompatible this neighborhood is. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynette Walther.
My name is Lynette Walther. I live at 229 Mauritania Point Road. You don't have to go very far out of Putnam County. You go over the county line into St. Johns County and you see the development moving towards this area. And you see property much like this. You see former farmland, and it's been turned into these kind of high-end little ranchlets, and there are these really nice homes being built there. They're two-story homes, 3,000 plus square feet, big homes, nice barns. St. John, you're not seeing over there a bunch of mobile home parks being developed. And St. Johns County is building their tax base. There have been a lot of comments here about taxes and what different things will benefit, how they will or won't benefit the area. But I think it's pretty obvious that there are ways to build your tax base, and there are ways that will be the opposite of that, and that's exactly what this development is. It's something that's not just going to impact those of us in East Palatka negatively in terms of taxes and services in the county. They're going to impact everyone in the county, and they're going to set the stage for future development. And that's something that you're going to have to decide what direction you want the county to go in. Do you want to see more of this kind of thing? Because if you start at the bottom, and this is looking at the lower end of development, if you start at this, it's going to be really hard to work your way up. And you've got an opportunity now to make a choice. And I have a question for everybody. At the beginning of this hearing, everyone commented about, and I sent you all emails, and I'm sure a lot of other people here did too. You commented about the contact you had with people for and against this ahead of time, and then you said that what you would hear today from the people who want to develop this piece of property and those who don't, and you said that those wouldn't influence your votes, and I don't understand what is it that's going to influence your vote? If our testimony and those of the people who want a development, if they're not going to influence, what is it that influences your votes? That's just a personal question of mine. Because I don't understand that comment that everybody made, that what you heard from us and what you heard from them is not going to influence how you vote. What will influence how you vote?
You want me to take it?
Because if you could tell me, I would do it.
Yeah. So ex parte communication is about communication prior to the public hearing.
That's right.
So during the public hearing, what's said and what has legal standing and legal bearing is what we take into account. And as part of what we take into account, along as well as what staff said and everything else, we have to take it all into account. Ex parte is information that we had prior to this hearing.
Yes.
So we have to, in a way, ignore that to a level because it would be inappropriate for us to make a decision prior to hearing from everyone. And there's 2 hearings, so we're going to have 2 hearings and we'll hear even more. Does that help you?
And may I add too, it's hard to be an elected official and not respond to your constituents. So, but we're supposed to sit here with the robes on and the curly hair, and you don't go to the judge before a trial and you don't get to present before a trial. Well, that's basically what we're looking at today, is we're trying to be neutral when we walk in, take the information given to us, and make the best decision. But it's hard as an elected official not to listen to our constituents and the people that employ us. So that's what that's about.
That's why you make the big bucks.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Tripp and Kathleen Harris, but it looks like Tripp's going to speak. Tripp Harrison? Okay. So I guess Ms. Kathleen doesn't want to speak. You're just going to speak for both of you?
She had to go take care of her parents.
Gotcha, yes, sir.
So my name's Tripp Harrison. I live at 159 East River Road. The reason I'm speaking to you is because I'm a first-hand witness to the water problems that we have along East River Road. Many don't realize it, but there's about 4 to 5 miles of culverts and swales, and the culvert that all intersects is right at our property. So all that water, including in front of the proposed development, all flows from the east or the west side of our property out to Carmen's Cove / the St. Johns River. If there was any question that this is a problem, all we have to do is go back to October 12th, and the people that drove down that road would have seen the flooding that happened during October 12th, and that certainly was not an extreme case of rain. It was a lot of rain, but it wasn't extreme. So the water breached the ditches along there, flooded our yard. Our yards were flooded for weeks, and at one point came very close to our home. And it was a real problem. If we had to take on any more water, then I don't think we could handle it. And I don't know what the ratios are on the impervious surface, what those ratios are, but I heard 35% here today. And if that were true and they took that to the max with the new development, that would mean about 17 to 19 acres of impervious surface would now be flowing instead of going into the farmland that it is now, would be now going into the ditches, because I don't believe that they did a great explanation of how that water is going to be diverted. So I just don't think we can handle any more. And if we had to handle more, they're going to have to go clear out that 1,000-foot runway where the water flows out along our property. Now we're getting into 200-year-old oak trees and really a haven for bald eagles and many wonderful birds right there. And we have a bald eagle's nest right there in one of those trees. So I think we've messed up our wildlife enough, and I think we need to take a stand that we're not going to do that anymore. So I hope that, I think everybody in this room, this is a no-brainer. This is not a fit. I've heard 20, 30 reasons why this is a bad idea. I'm yet to hear why this is a good idea. So I hope you'll vote no on this, and appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Phil Leary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Phil Leary, Governmental Affairs Consultant, National Certified Land Use Planner, representing Larry Korn from the East Palatka area. My address 6052 Silver Lake Drive. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, this petition is inconsistent with your comprehensive plan and the goals, objectives, and policies that are stated in there. Zach, could you put up the future land use map that Commissioner Wilkinson asked you? And it had been alluded to earlier, but during the Planning Commission meeting, actually on debate and the motion, Planning Commissioner Fortner basically stated that they probably had put the urban service line in the wrong place, which I had testified to during the commission meeting, the Planning Commission meeting that they had. And if you'll look at, is it up? I can't see it real good. At any rate, the urban service line should have been drawn down the eastern boundary of Putnam County Boulevard, stopped at the southeastern corner of the intersection of East River Road and Putnam County Boulevard, and then gone east to US 17. This particular development is 160 units now on essentially 19 acres, which is roughly 8 units per acre. The rest of the property can't be used for any type of development, so it's really a misnomer to say that they've got 50 acres. They're clustering their density, 160 units on 19 acres. Tell me any development in East Palatka, basically tell me any development in Putnam County where you see that kind of density. I haven't seen any, and I'm former planning director, and I've been here a long time. The other thing that the staff points out in their report is that agriculture is a land use holding for future urban development. Well, that may be true for agriculture that doesn't have a greenbelt assessment and a commercial designation and is producing a crop that's generating thousands of dollars per acre, as this particular property has, and basically everything north of it. This development would intrude into that agricultural area and basically establish an inconsistent land use pattern and residential density. And specifically, I sent you all a letter as part of the record with a goal, objective, and policy that addresses this specifically. And so I'm just going to read for the record policy A142 of the Land Development Code that says, the Land Development Code shall provide protection measures for the continuation of agricultural uses within the county. The county shall analyze land use changes and development activities proposed adjacent to existing agricultural areas to ensure compatibility of agricultural uses. I can tell you, as a land use planner practicing for over 30 years, this development is completely contrary to that. And I think if you look at this in depth as it pertains to your comprehensive plan and your land development codes, you'll find it is not anything that you can adopt. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Larry Peterson. Might be Pedersen. Yes, sir. You give us your name and address for the record, please.
Larry Pedersen, 208 Mauritania Point Road, just down the street from this proposed development. I really can't add much to what's already been said. My points are basically the same points as a lot of the people had, so I'm not going to take my whole 3 minutes. But I will say that we've tried to stop signs here before. They didn't work when there was less traffic. They're not going to work going forward. And if you looked at that map that they did the road study on, that intersection becomes a choke point and will be more of a choke point if you add that kind of development in that particular place. So I think it's just the wrong place for a PUD. The issue has been made, or the state's been made, about there being zero shoulder. I mean, almost all of us have probably driven by and seen somebody being pulled out of that ditch. And there's no mitigation for that I can see in the plan going forward. And also part of the requirements for a PUD of this size is not the internal sidewalks, but external sidewalks going around the property. I also don't see anything in planning for that. And stripes on the road, that is a joke, a poor joke. Again, thank you for your time. I hope you'll agree with the Planning Commission that this is not something we should do.
Thank you, sir. Deborah Pettinger. And we'll be ready. You're next.
Should I just give them what I have to say? Hi. Thank you.
Your name and address.
First of all, I wasn't planning to do this because I've
You
really...
give us your name and address.
Oh, I'm Deborah Pettinger, 153 East River Road, just about 400 yards from the proposed development. So I wasn't really going to stand up here, but as I was listening to Mr. Perkins and his team speak, I had some questions. And most of them are rhetorical, but the first one is, as residents who live on East River Road, if we would like to connect to the water and sewer, how much would that cost us individually? Is there a way to find that out?
Mm-hmm. Yes, there is, but right now we don't have a main trunk line that runs down East River Road, but it's in planning.
Correct.
And so once the trunk line comes down there, then we could figure it out for you a lot easier than right now.
Okay, but this may interfere with that, correct?
I don't see how it would interfere with it at all, no.
No? Okay. The rest of these, as I said, are mostly rhetorical and just questions for everyone to consider. The salesperson from Town Homes implies that the mobile homes, which are superior built to other mobile homes that are sold in the area, would be the choice that Mr. Perkins' neighborhood would be buying. Does that mean they need to be purchased by your
Ma'am,
developer,
you're
by
gonna
his
have
developer?
to talk to me, yeah.
Okay, by his developer, or do they have the opportunity to buy anywhere they'd like? And then if they do have to buy from him, they have to buy from him, and then they have to lease the rent as well, lease the land. Can a developer and county, how can the developer and county compare a 90 by 40 lot, which works out to be 12 units per acre, with adjacent lots, almost all of which are bigger and directly across the street from Putnam County Boulevard? The point of it being an innovative community, it is really the same mobile home community of River Villas, and that development is still 20% vacant 30 years later once it had been established. Another comment was that they are simulating their mobile homes to look like stick-built homes. If that's the case, why not just site-build stick-built homes? And finally, what does this project of his do for the existing citizens of East Palatka? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pettinger, you want to come up?
Since the boss has already spoken.
I understand.
My name is Will Pettinger, and coincidentally, I do live at 153 East River Road as well. I had originally intended to follow up on my email to you guys with regards to the money on this property, but I want to take a little bit different twist, because it seems to me, with very few exceptions, that this has been an emotional appeal. But with the PUD requirements for future land use, there are 8 potential, requirements for future use planning compliance. And the only lens that we've seen has come from the developer or from Zach. And Zach, we appreciate your work, right? So I'm not dissing you here at all. But innovative mixed, residential mixed use development, I don't see anything innovative about a 55-year-old plus trailer park. And it is a trailer park by Putnam County's own definitions. Land lease, it's called a trailer park. There's nothing innovative about it. So let's cross that one of the 8 off of our list. Provide flexibility to meet changing needs and consumer preferences. To the previous points about the money, this is not flexible. It's a tax and resource drain on the community, where people that live 400 feet away are paying 10 times the amount of taxes in the same ad valorem rate. So we'll cross that one off the list. Preserve existing landscapes and scenic vistas. I don't think so. I don't even know how to describe that. I think Clint Porch will be able to bring up his fantastic presentation next time for you guys to review why those fantastic vistas are not compliant. Lower development and building costs. It's not cheaper, especially when you add double the mortgage rate on manufactured housing and another $500+ a month for a lot rent. That cross that one off the list. Negative impacts of piecemeal development. This is number 5. Infill developments. I just don't see how this particular proposal is compliant with that either. Enhance architectural styles, building forms, etc., surrounding a trailer park with a privacy fence and have minimum lot sizes cramming 12 units per acre. Cross that one off the list. Traditional quality of life design features. I think Molly said it best in terms of family friendly and growth and development. That's what we want, not another trailer park. And then provide efficient public process for otherwise difficult under a non-PUD. They've asked for so many exceptions to this development. It's going to save probably $150,000 to $200,000 in sidewalks, width of roadways, setbacks. That I don't see that that the efficiency of the public process is benefiting anybody except for the developer. All my other points still stand that I shared with you guys about this being a bad financial decision for the community, but I did want to address some of those legal recourse pieces that if the decision is made to jettison this proposal and deny it, I think that there's absolutely solid legal ground for you guys to reject it and not just emotional appeals that we've mostly heard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Gail White.
I'm Gail White, and I live at 117 Rivers Edge Drive in East Palatka. And of course, I had all kinds of interesting notes on here about revenues versus services and impact fees and fire, EMS, yada, 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 but they've all been covered. So I will just say that this proposed development is within a mile of the river. The river is lined with homes that far exceed the value of a mobile home or a trailer, known for depreciation. Have you ever put appreciation with trailers in the past? Never. So this plan adds no value to those existing homes. We've lived in East Palatka for 27 years. We're blessed to be on the river. Still living, though, on a dirt road. And I only drive white cars. Newer residents have told me that property was sold to them with the assurance that a road is scheduled to be paved really soon. Now, of course, that was not in writing. Are you laughing? So years have passed, large taxes are paid, and we're still covered in dust. Now, we live in a beautiful, rural, high-value area of Putnam County. Let's keep it that way. This proposal is not an asset to our existing community. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Jones.
Stephen Jones, 104 Riverview Drive, East Palatka. First, I want to start off thanking you, commissioners, for what you do and the service you do for our county. I know it's a hard job, and I know Commissioner Harvey, when he mentioned that you come in here with a scale, basically, and you have to listen to the facts. I was on your side in Orange Park for 9 years. I was on the town council and mayor in Orange Park, so I know what you're going through, and I thank you for your job. The property we live on is at the very far end of East River Road. My in-laws built the house in 1972, and we moved into the house about 7 years ago. We love the area. We love Palatka. But several things that were brought up, you know, I look for the benefits of Palatka, and the developer spent a lot of time talking about the benefits of Palatka. He said the contractors would be paid that work in the area. Unless I miss something, those homes are going to be made in Lake City. I don't know if I missed something there or not. And also the taxes, like they've mentioned, that it would gain about $61,000 in taxes. That won't even pay for one EMS operator. This is 160 homes that's going to be serviced. And we compared it to farmland that's bringing $700 and something, and how much more this is bringing. Well, that's not apples to apples. I don't know too many EMS or fire department or sheriff's department that's going to go to those farmlands. So it's totally different. If you put 50 homes on that property and gain $300,000 to $350,000, that kind of a development, that's what we need in Palatka, and it needs to be developed where we can watch it. And I disagree with some of the statistics from the traffic studies. I mean, traffic studies, I know they count clicks, but put your feet in that place, drive it. I drive it every day multiple times. I drove for Ride Solutions for a year when we first moved down here. And the cars that go through that intersection every day, if you drove it and you saw it every day, there's a lot of traffic there. It's the worst place, and no sidewalk coming up East River Road. There needs to be, if it does pass, there needs to be a sidewalk going up East River Road. 80% of that development is east of that entrance when it comes in. So they're going to walk up that trail and walk across a painted line that's going to be all the tires that spin there at that stop sign that's going to be erased in a couple of months. But I'm just concerned about the safety and where it is. Not that we need development. I'm all for development. I voted for a lot of development myself. But we need it to be controlled and to watch how we do it. So I think most everyone else has covered most of the things that I wanted to cover on that, and I definitely agree. But I agree with the Buffalo statement that we need to look at generations down. I always put my feet in the shoes of whoever was coming up, what the business, the person that's against it, and also the county. What's best for all parties involved? And some of those decisions are tough. Some, you're going to have 2 out of 3 that might not be right on that, that might not agree with your decision. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Willie McKinnon.
I know.
You own 2 minutes for you. 2 minutes, Willie.
I guarantee it. My name's Willie B. McKinnon III. I live at 131 Oak Haven Lane, East Palatka, Florida, 32131. Zach, can you put the PUD one back up there that had the original PUD on it? I want to clarify something for you real quick.
Yes, sir.
That PUD right there, my house that I live in sits right in the middle of the one on the left-hand side of East River Road. All that property's been sold off since that PUD was not, since they didn't create that development. Those properties have been sold off to different people, so I don't know how that plays into what your question was, but I don't foresee. Now, I do know that the farmland right across the road that's still got that PUD on it still is for sale. I'm pretty confident. But here's my thing. I've been in that area my entire life. My dad was born in 1958 and grew up on Dog Branch Road, which is right there in that area as well. That has been an amazing area to grow up in. It's been an amazing area to now raise my kids up in. My big concerns is the roadways. They brought it up. They had their study, and I would like to know when that study was done, number one, because I drive that road every day, and there's no way 58 trips is done before lunchtime. It's got to be 168 at least. And you couple that with the fact of L&M Farms has a major operation right there. And I'm telling you now, If we add in that many units, they can say that they're 55 and older and they don't drive that much. My daddy drives more at 65 than he did at 45. So I know that when you couple that amount of traffic in there with a bunch of tractors and a bunch of potato trucks, what it's going to create at East River Road and Putnam County Boulevard. It is going to create a bottleneck, a major bottleneck. And I seen they had the left turn lane going into their place. Well, what about one at that intersection? What about the red light? What about the turning lanes going both ways? And they said that they'll turn left and they'll go up Cracker Swamp. The majority, 90% of that traffic, because I drive it every day, turns right on the Putnam County Boulevard and goes straight in East Palatka into Palatka. That's where we go shop. That's where we go eat. That's where we go to do things. And that is where my biggest issue is. My next biggest issue is the taxes. The taxes. They put up there how much their taxes are. What was it, River Villas? Is that the name of the place? River Villas? Was what, $32-something thousand? Me and two of my neighbors pay that a year. A year. So you're telling me that they're telling me it is okay for them to put that many houses on that much acreage and not pay what we have to pay. That's my big issue. That's my big problem. And I know there's variances, and they're trying to get variances given and all that stuff. I don't know, my time's out. My thing to you is don't give it. Don't give the variances. Make them abide by the rules everybody else does. Thank you.
Thank you, Willie. Y'all don't egg him on. I'm amazed. I'm amazed.
Amen, brother, amen.
Okay, do you have any more cards, Ashley? Okay, that's all the cards I have. Okay. Yes, sir. Just bring it to me if you would on your way up there. Do you need to write it down first, Ashley, or can you just get it later? Yes, sir.
Oh, you're fine.
Thank you. You're doing good. Thank you for that. Walter Rohero?
That's the one.
Okay, if you'd give me your name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Walter Rohero, Jr. I live at 124 Magnolia Avenue in East Palatka, Florida, where I grew up, and my ancestors grew up. I moved away. I've lived on Martha's Vineyard Island. I know what you guys are trying to fight with. I've lived in Washington, D.C. I know what unbelievable development's like. And what I haven't heard, and the only reason I'm talking, is because I haven't heard people talk about what people are looking for when they come here. There's a lot of people moving into St. John's because they got the best schools in the district or in the state. We're working on doing the same thing. There's going to be younger families that need a place to be. Right now, till I get to middle school, you can move to East Palatka, take your kids to St. John's. I don't agree with it, but you can do it. We would be fundamentally altering the nature of one of the premium areas that people want to move to in this county. And we don't need people who are snowbirds. Love them. My grandparents rented to them. We need people who are going to be here on Halloween. There were neighborhoods on Martha's Vineyard that were empty on Halloween because it was all snowbirds and second homes. We don't need homes that are going to cost $1 million for an acre of land, which is what I lived on when I was in D.C. What we need are homes that people can afford, that they're going to be a part of this community, that they're going to contribute to the community, and we need people, abiding by the rule is the wrong word, but wholly taking the planning documents and the ways that we have of being and throwing them to the side because there's a development that needs to be made. That's not a good neighbor. I'm sorry. And my sister's father-in-law built Villa Farms. My sister lived in Villa Farms. I think it's a great thing, but I don't think it's right where we're talking about, and I don't think it's the right thing for this community in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody else wish to speak before I turn off the public comment? Okay, seeing none, then the chair will entertain a motion to move forward.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we move forward.
Okay, that's the only option we have. Do we have a second? Have a motion and a second.
Oh, we do need to pick a date. I'm sorry.
Yeah, would you include that in your motion?
Yes, sir. I move that we move forward in November 14th at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. Could you make it at 9 o'clock or as soon thereafter as can be heard? That way if we're early.
Do what? 9 o'clock. Okay, 9 o'clock then, on the 14th.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Pickens seconded it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it. You're opposed to what? To the motion?
Same reason.
Oh, okay. 4-1. Motion was 4-1 to move it forward. Next, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. We'll have a record for the longest meeting ever. Okay, we're going to get started again after recess. But is this one we get to make a decision on today, or is this coming back to another hearing too?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, whenever you're ready, can somebody give him a microphone where we can proceed?
Oh, the battery's dead. Hold on. Talk to the dead. I have a battery.
You pull it out of your pocket, I'm going to be impressed.
He did. There it is.
Really?
Yes.
I'll be done.
Can you hear me now?
You betcha. Boy Scout Zachary.
I'm impressed. I'm just saying.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we get a little giddy after 3 o'clock.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the battery was just dead, but there was an extra one. You want the dead one? Okay, appreciate it.
Do what?
All right, Zach, short and sweet, let us have it.
All right, rezone 220005. This is a request to amend the zoning map from residential 2 and commercial neighborhood C1 to commercial general C3. The subject property is located along South Highway 17, adjacent to the intersection of Troop Road and South Highway 17. It's actually 3 parcels between Divvy and Troop Road. Cumulatively, the 3 lots equate to 2.9 acres. The request could allow for several uses, including, but not limited to, mini warehouses, RV and boat sales, portable building display and sales, general retail, retail sales of food, so on and so forth. So as mentioned, it's total 2.9 acres. The first parcel is residential 2 and commercial 1 zoning. It's 0.68 acres with approximately 0.3 acres of C1. The remainder is 1.1 acre residential 2 and 1.12 acre of residential 2. The portion of the first parcel within C1 operated as a tire store at one point. I believe now it's like an art gallery or something like that. Here we can see the aerial of the property. Here we can see its current zoning and surrounding zoning around the area. Here we have the future land use as urban service. And then the zoning zoomed out. So you can see on either direction in 17 there's quite a bit of commercial zoning. With the exception of the 0.3 acre portion of parcel 1, the current zoning designations do not allow for commercial uses. Per 45-83 of the Land Development Code, the commercial general C3 zoning designation allows for all of the requested uses by right. The parcel has an underlying future land use category of urban service. Urban service land use designation allows for both neighborhood and community commercial development along South Highway 17. This parcel is located in a portion of the corridor that has existing sporadic commercial development on lands on both the urban service and commercial land use designations. Urban service land use classification encourages a mixture of uses where urban type infrastructure exists or will exist within the next 15 years. Portions of South Highway 17 currently have water infrastructure. It's okay. Just close the door. You're good. Thank you.
Never had that happen before.
Can we not lock that? Just kidding. Portions of South U.S. Highway 17 currently have water infrastructure which serves to encourage mixed-use development. Currently, the subject property abuts Troop Road and South Highway 17 and is located adjacent to both residential and vacant agricultural uses. Commercial development along this corridor is within less than half a mile from the subject sites. So if the zoning is approved, there would be certain mitigations in place. There would be, of course, the 20-foot wide Class B buffer separating the residential uses or zoning districts. So you'd have perimeter landscaping along the rights-of-way. This would all come through for development review to ensure that the use is properly screened.
Staff recommends approval of the request to amend the zoning designation from R2 and C1 to Commercial 3. So the history here, the Planning Commission at its September 14th, 2022 public hearing brought up certain deed restrictions observed on a deed for the subject properties, which restricted commercial uses. The Planning Commission voted to table the applicant's request until a determination could be made as to whether said deed restrictions were relevant. The applicants supplied staff with an opinion of title from Gullet Title stating deed restrictions were no longer applicable. The documentation associated with that determination was included in attachment 4 of the staff reports. Following the September 13th, 2023 Planning Commission public hearing, where Planning Commission voted to recommend approval for the request, a concerned citizen brought to light that the opinion of title was incomplete. The applicants provided the complete opinion of title. Staff contacted Gullet Title and was informed that 653 and 657 South Highway 17 are indeed burdened by deed restrictions, despite presenting to the Planning Commission that such deed restrictions were dissolved. However, the county cannot enforce deed restrictions. There are contractual regulations among landowners within the community. So, and the question was deed restrictions, and I believe I have the opinion of title I passed out to you. There were deed restrictions and CCRs. I think the deed restrictions were dissolved, but the CCRs are still in place, or vice versa.
Okay, any questions of staff at this time? Okay, is the applicant present? You want to come forward? If you'd state your name and address for the record, Ms. White.
Elizabeth Riley, can you hear me? 129 Troop Road, San Mateo, Florida. We would like the property to be rezoned, although we don't actually have a plan in place of what we want to do with it. We would like it to be something that benefits this community. We'd like it to be something positive, of value. We don't want to do anything that would be unattractive or unuseful. You know, we would just like to do something with it that it, like I said, that benefits, that would be good for the community. Something we could be proud of.
Any questions of the applicant at this time? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll start calling up the speakers. The first one is James White. Pardon me?
I'm sorry, she just had it in a specific order that would carry things through.
Well, if you don't like my order, if you'd like to come, you're more than welcome to put in whatever order you please. I don't care. Well, Jim's gonna carry on, and then if you'd like to change the numbers around, you let me know, but that's not your decision, that's mine. Where's their numbers at on here? Okay.
Here, you want me to put it in order?
Yeah, if you would put that in order, I was unaware I was supposed to put it in some order. Y'all mind if Jim goes first? No, ma'am, that's up to you. I'm gonna let you have that. Okay, Jim, would you mind if the lady goes first, please, sir?
Here's your first 4.
Yeah, well, I guess he's number 5. She had him at number 5.
Here's your first 5.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Janet Fitzgerald. I live at 145 Divvy Drive. I'm the president of Nows Homeowners Association, and this is my posse. There are 12 families on this road. It's a private community. We have 10 households represented today, one of which owns, of the 2 missing, one person owns a home in our community but lives in Kentucky full-time. It's a vacation home. They pay full boat taxes on that, by the way. And the other one's on vacation. I bought my house here 20 years ago as a weekend place and a future retirement home. I thought twice about buying here because, frankly, Putnam County does not have a good reputation in Jacksonville. A lot of derogatory things come out about Putnam County. Excuse me. But they were wrong. I came down here and found this place, and it's just a little piece of heaven. It's got beautiful river, wonderful people, and peace and tranquility. In the 20 years since I bought my home here, Jacksonville has become a spaghetti bowl of concrete roads and highways, oversaturated commercialism, zero lot line developments, massive apartment complexes, and crazy traffic and congestion. I sold my primary home of 30 years in Jacksonville last year and moved down here permanently, and I do not miss anything about Jacksonville. We're here before you today because we want to keep our community free from all the stuff that makes communities go bad. For example, overgrowth, inappropriate commercialism, and I think it's our contention that the county planning department's approval of these zoning changes were made without the required procedural notifications. We're going to speak to that. And were done so without regard for existing deed restrictions. We're going to speak to that. And it does not comport with the 2035 Putnam County Comprehensive Plan. San Mateo is but a postage stamp on the map of Putnam County. Because we are unincorporated, we rely on you, the BOCC, to protect us from unplanned growth. As a very small community, we have been meeting and communicating since September on our path forward. My friends and neighbors are here to present our appeal that we collectively agree to. We will also share why this is important to us and our concerns and about the impact we believe that this will have on our community. Given that it's been a long day, we practiced and we're trying to all stay below the 3-minute mark, but keep in mind that does not diminish our resolve in making sure that this doesn't get approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fitzgerald?
Yes?
What about the ones that don't have numbers on them? Do you want to tell me where you'd like to hear them?
And there's not a number 10 either, so I
Not
don't
a
know.
number 10, and there's no number on them too. Does she run y'all's homeowners association like that? Y'all might need to move.
Okay, these are these people,
Okay,
so they're not me.
so, okay. So you want to hear them first or after, or how would you like to hear them?
That's the owner, that's the people that, they already spoke.
Miss Riley and Miss Costello have,
She has.
okay. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
What happened to number 10?
They didn't show up.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
need to, just, to declare that I had a conversation with Ms. Fitzgerald. And, so I don't know if that's considered ex parte or whatever, but,
It would be, yes.
yes, I'll still be fair and impartial.
Has
Yes, and-
anybody else had any input? Okay.
I did as
Commissioner
well
Adams,
with
aye.
several people in the community, and it will not affect my
Okay,
decision.
Commissioner Harvey.
I've had none, sir.
Commissioner Pickens.
I don't believe I've had any with this group. I don't think.
I had a text message with one member of and it's not going to change my vote one way or the other, so we're moving forward. I didn't call your name, Nadine, but I am now. Okay, so Elizabeth Riley, is she going to, you've already spoken, okay. So Nora Costello, would you like to speak, ma'am?
Yes, I will.
Okay, and then I'll get back on your order, Ms. Fitzgerald.
I'm Nora Costello. I live at 208 Cabot Lane in Satsuma. I'm here on behalf of my mother, who's out of town. Speaking for her, I'm reading her words. She's one of the owners, obviously, of the properties. They don't know what they're doing yet. They do want to build the community. They understand that in the past, they have had a tire store there that was unsightly, that took us time to get them out, that we had to work hard on our end to do so. I helped as well. I've been to the zoning and the board meetings with my mother as well. We wish, like I said, we wish to do something beneficial to the community. Give me one moment. Nothing that would be derogatory in any way to the community. This area is rapidly growing and will be in need of many types of services. Each of the properties are in contiguous
to US Highway 17, which is an ideal location for several types of small businesses to benefit our community. Right now, we have a small local lady who's opened an art gallery there. It's a beautiful little art gallery. We'd like to do similar things to that, maybe even open up a business of our own one day there that would benefit the community. So, and as far as like the deed restrictions go, the deed restrictions are lifted because it's on a major highway. And the other property is on a county road. If you look at the paperwork that I believe that they provided you with, it should be in there that the deed restrictions are lifted because it's on a major highway. Because that's what we was told by Gullah Travel. That's what our own investigation showed. And that should be what you should see before you, because that's what we've turned into zoning. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Now we're going to call number 2 on the list, Robert Trigambo. And I'm terrible. You're going to have to help me out. Give your name and address for the record.
My name is Robert Trigambo, 129 DV Drive, San Mateo. And first of all, we're going to read about the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan. And it says goal A1 is to maintain and manage the county's natural resources and quality of life by establishing a pattern of development that is harmonious with the county's natural environment and supports the rural and agrarian nature of the county while providing a desired lifestyle for county residents. So that's, we want to maintain our lifestyle if we can, because we moved, my wife and I bought a property in there 8 years ago, and it's a very quiet community, no business right in front of it like what they plan on doing. And then on the second page is a map showing where the property is, and there's really, it's not adjoining any business property, so it'd be like a satellite in other words, if you added that as business, it would be not connected to another piece of business property, which is, usually they don't like doing that, but I don't know myself. And let's see here. The main concern we have about it is what kind of business they were wanting to put out there if they were zoned for that. And if I haven't really heard any definite thing about what they said they wanted to do. And what concerns me personally is if it's zoned commercial, they could turn around tomorrow and sell it to anybody that can put basically anything in there. And that's what, I mean, without knowing what's going there, I don't agree with it. I hope you vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Christine Needleman.
Hi, I'm Christine Needleman, and I live at 106 DV Drive in San Mateo, Florida. Hi, everybody. My husband and I bought our property 5 years ago, and I live on 106, which is one of the first houses. So my neighbor and I are the first houses on DV Drive. So if I look out my living room window, I can see the property right across the road. It's right across the road from me, so anything that happens on that property, I will see every day. Right out my window, I don't have to go on my porch. I can see it. So my concern for a personal level is that I bought this property, my husband and I bought this property, and we want to retire on this property. And what is trailer storage or shed sales going to do to my property value? And I don't think that's fair to have the property developed that way. I didn't buy the property knowing that that would happen. I had no idea. I'm a little nervous, please excuse me. So the other thing is that I guess you guys have a process about how this thing goes about. So you had 2 zoning meetings or planning meetings, and then now you're having 2 meetings for this, but I got no
Not for this one. This one here is not large enough, and
Oh,
so
I
we
gotcha.
get to
So
actually make
this
the
would be-
decision today. It's less than 10 acres.
This would be the last one for you
Yes,
guys,
ma'am.
okay. So I never received notification for any meetings whatsoever. And I heard about the last meeting, that was last month, from one of my neighbors. And I was concerned about that. I felt like, well, I had no recourse. And when I called these guys, they said, well, they didn't have my proper address, and those things happen, I understand. But that's 2 meetings where I would get to exercise my rights of saying I disagree. And I just feel like that I should have been given opportunity. But even if it wasn't just about me, what about, I just don't see that all the businesses up and down that 17 are storage, trailer storage, mini storage. I don't see how that, do we need that? I know that I don't want that. I don't want to retire and stare out my window at a bunch of used trailers. That's not what I want for my life, anyway. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Fred Eel. Height, Heel? Eel? Okay.
I'm Fred Ely. I live on Divvy Drive in San Mateo. Recently moved to Divvy Drive from Wilbur by the Sea, which is just south of Daytona Beach. And our rationale really was it was just too commercial and too congested in Wilbur by the Sea. I'm here today to talk about posting of signage or lack thereof. A neighbor called zoning and planning to ask why there weren't any signs posted on the 2 properties facing Highway 17. The pictures that they sent in response, I think you have as Exhibit A, and they were actually signs that were posted, from what I understand, on, Troop Road. So a second follow-up conversation happened, and another picture or 2 was sent. But that was, I'm not sure what it was. It was some woods with a date stamp from 1980. As far as I know, there never has been a notification sign posted on Highway 17. And to be honest with you, when we were shopping for homes, which again was very recent, if I would have saw a sign that said this was going to be rezoned to commercial, I think it would have changed our opinion and we probably wouldn't be in this community. So again, I thank you for taking your time and I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mr. Ely. Jim, now it's your turn.
Okay. My name's James White. I live at 111 Troop Road. I'm not part of the homeowners association for Divvy, so I'm speaking for myself. The paperwork that I handed out, Gullet Title was representing them, and they were tasked to research deed restrictions. The results were there are deed restrictions for those properties. If you look at page 2 on there, in the highlighted area, it does state in paragraph B that the 2 above parcels are burdened by deed restrictions. Parcel 2 says that those restrictions are not currently set to expire until June 19th of 2029. And parcel 3, not set to expire until February 25th of 2036. So they're still bound by that. If you go to the very last page, it's not stapled. That's a copy of what the deed restrictions say. It's not part of the homeowners association for the CCRs for divvy, but these are straight from the tax collector's website. So what I would like for you to notice in paragraph 5, subparagraph F, says that the restrictions shall run through the land, with the land, and be binding on all subsequent owners thereof. So all future owners, these deed restrictions are supposed to apply. Now, what Nora mentioned about the properties being on 17 and that voids the deed restrictions, if you look at subparagraph M, that addresses that, and that paragraph only deals with private roads and their responsibility to take care of it. Has nothing to do with the fact that those properties are on Highway 17. So that does not qualify to void out the deed restrictions. Their proposed traffic plan, you're going to give me another minute, please.
Try to
I'll make it-
do the
I
best
will
you
make
can,
it
Jim.
quick.
You speak slow like me, so just try to
Sometimes.
speak a little.
Yeah. Their proposed traffic plan, it appears that most of the traffic, if it was rezoned to commercial, would exit through Troop Road and increase our traffic. We already have traffic from the trailer park down at the end of the road. We don't need additional traffic. The last thing I'd like to say is their projected businesses that they think they might put there, there's nothing definite. If you change the code to C3, they can put anything there that they want. And the last time I remember anything as not being definite and having a zone change, East Palatka ended up with an adult store. So we don't want, without any kind of concrete plan of what they want to do, we just ask that you deny and vote against changing the zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jane Wolf. Thank you.
Do you need tennis shoes?
My name is Jane Wolf, and I live at 141 Divvy Drive. I am a real estate agent by trade for the last 20 years, active in the state of Florida. Two quick things. CCRs, which are covenants and restrictions, and deed restrictions are two different things. Just so you guys know, one pertains to a subdivision, the other pertains to anybody can put a restriction on a deed, which is what we have here. And also, I agree with Jim on item M of those covenants and restrictions. That entire paragraph, you have to read it slow, but it only pertains to if you need to maintain the road. So I'm going to start off with what I had given you to look at. I represented a customer a couple of years ago. This is Troop Road 17, and here's Divvy. This customer owned this property right here, the front 17.
He wanted to put it on the market, change it to commercial. I had him go before the planning department, who promptly sent out a decline. At that time, he wanted C1 or C2, and they told him no, that you can't spot zone. It didn't go with, we are zoned for the future rural residential. It didn't fall within that. Now today, we're looking at these 3 lots, which similar in size, but they span an entire block. So you're not only impacting one little corner, you have got a private residential road going in and a county road. That is just not something that seems to be working. Why would we be spot zoning? And that seems to be full-blown commercial at its best if you are going to go an entire block. The current zoning map, these little, which you've seen on the thing, I'll show little bits of red here. Well, they look a lot more than what they are, but here you've got Horse Landing Road, and up here you've got Mr. Bird's mobile home place. So they just look bigger on paper. Future land use, the map has not changed. Mr. Bird's property got bigger, and they actually made the Baptist church larger. It shows in the future land use that there is no additional grant for commercial property, that it's still residential, R2, ag, whatever you want to put on it, but it's not commercial. And we ask that you keep it that way. It was that way for a reason. We're supposed to establish an environment that is harmonious with the people who live in it. San Mateo is this beautiful little area, and you need to establish and keep the desired lifestyle that the county residents expected when they moved into those areas. The wildlife that goes through there is unbelievable. If you start stripping it and putting in parking lots, where is it going to end? You know, we're talking wild turkeys, owls, eagles, the whole 9 yards. To allow this type of saturation will eventually turn us into East Palatka, and we don't want to go there.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Commissioner Adams, Zach.
I actually have a question for Zach. I just want to make sure I understand it correctly. Currently, it's commercial neighborhood and rural residential. Is that all 3 lots?
No, sir. One of them is commercial neighborhood at the intersection of Troop and 17. And then as you move north from that property, it's residential 2.
Okay, thank you.
You want to see it on this big map?
I have a question. No, ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah, we got it. We got pictures of it.
What is this document referring to?
That is the
3
gentleman who
pieces
wanted
of-
to have this
okay.
rezoned to C1 and C2.
Did he fit the same deed restrictions that you're saying? Because they
Yes,
don't match
They
up.
all have the same deed restrictions.
They don't match up.
What doesn't match up?
What they say is the side setbacks don't match up with your deed restrictions.
It doesn't matter. We don't
enforce
deed
them, that's what-
restrictions.
I know you don't enforce deed
And Mr.
restrictions.
Salmon said
but-
that in that letter to you back then. Is that you in January 20th, 2020?
This is not me, this was sent to my customer.
Okay,
In addition
okay.
to the deed restrictions, which they say they do not enforce, it is considered spot zoning, and they would not allow it to happen.
Thank you. I was just trying to get understanding of whose property we're talking about.
Beth Ely.
I'm just showing you that the precedence has been set a couple years ago with the lots across Troop Road. Why would we change it now?
Thank you.
If they've denied them once.
Thank you. Beth Ely.
Hi there,
Please
Beth
give me-
Ely, married to Fred, 150 DV Drive, San Mateo. Newest addition, absolutely love it. And like Fred said, the big deal is peace and quiet, and so different from where we came from. So I know it's not a huge piece of property, but I kind of agree with Jim. What happens if they put another Adam and Eve or something if they get sold? So no thanks. There's already lots of stuff in San Mateo, like other people said, selling sheds, you know, all this stuff. And there's 2 empty buildings too that somebody could put something in. I'd like to see empty stuff used and not empty lots turned into commercial. So I'd rather have it be beautiful and green, and that's selfish, but it is an awesome place to live, so thanks.
Thank you. Howard Lemire. Did I butcher yours too?
My name is Howard Lemaire. My address is 133 Divvy Drive. I moved here back in June of 2015. I was originally raised down in Tampa. I went in service, and by the time the Marine Corps decided to end my enlistment, which I was in Wisconsin at the time, my brother and father talked me into moving to Colorado. So I lived in the Denver area, Colorado Springs and Denver area. I lived out there for about 38 years. And when I finally retired totally, I finished snowmobiling, spending time in the mountains, ATVing and everything else. And then I decided, well, I got tired of twiddling my thumb 6 months out of the year, so I started looking someplace else. I looked at Texas. I said, no, the wind's blowing down there too much. So one morning I got up and I spent probably 12 hours on the computer. The next day I got on the computer for another 12 hours. And because I watched a program on waterfront properties, and it pertained to Beaufort, South Carolina, which is near and dear to my heart because Parris Island's right across the way. So I came all the way down the Intercoastal Waterway into Jacksonville, went all the way down to Big George. By the time I finished, I had over 30 properties on my list. By the time I was able to get down here, I was down to about 25, so I'd covered everything I could. I finally settled on the last house that I looked at. It's quiet, it's peaceful. I can sit on my back porch. I can listen to the birds, the squirrels chattering back and forth. I've had friends come down here and say, gosh, it's quiet. And I said, well, Jerry, a friend of mine, I says, I don't live next to Interstate 225, which is where his house is, near in Aurora. I says, it's quiet and it's peaceful. So the thing I look at is to try and keep this place. We don't have a problem in regards to building there, and we invite people in, but we're looking at the fact of residential homes, not more trailers, because of some of my fellow neighbors have mentioned in regards to the fact of the sheds and also the trailers. There's trailer sales just down the street, less than a half mile, and you can go in there. There's one on the extreme right-hand side. There's a last trailer that's been in there for over 3 years. It moved when they put a boat in there. It's back in there, so I know the fact that they don't sell a whole bunch of trailers. So the thing is, it wouldn't be advantageous in regards to the fact of putting some of the stuff in. So I hope you'll consider these factors when it comes time to voting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Heidi Jimerson.
So my name is Heidi Jimerson. My property address is 132 Divvy Drive. And I thank you very much for taking the time to listen to our concerns about proposed commercial development. I shed blood, a broken bone, sweat, tears, and treasure to turn 132 Divvy Drive from an animal feces and bug-infested place into a beautiful sanctuary for my family. According to the assessor, both my market value and taxable value have risen significantly, and my tax bill is now north of $7,700. So what I really want to ask you is, why would you permit land uses in a residential neighborhood that would negatively impact my property values and therefore your taxes? Will that deterioration of the collective property values be made up by the development proposed on the property we're talking about? And I think not. So I thank you for listening to me, and I'll go back to my seat.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Carol Crosby.
My name is Carol Crosby, and I am very blessed to live at 145 Divvy Drive in San Mateo. So I just wanted to go on the record with, I want to agree with all of my friends and neighbors who've spoken before me. And when I first got to Divvy, that was over 20 years ago, I knew that that's where I wanted to retire. I mean, I spent the next 20 years really planning, saving, dreaming to come here. And so please do not pass this zoning change. That'll forever change and alter this little piece of heaven.
Thank you, Bam.
Thank you.
Hampson Tang? Did I butcher your name too? Tang? Okay.
Yeah, my name is Hamson Tang. I live at 137 DB Drive. So I just here to just make support what my neighbors been go through all the talk, and I appreciate that I could stay there for another decade or so. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Janice Wall?
My name is Janice Wall, and I live at 113 Divvy Drive, San Mateo. I would like to say that I did get letters, and being older and everything, I really wasn't quite sure what the letters meant or anything, and then when we started talking as a neighborhood about it, I certainly do not want to see the zoning changed. I am probably the oldest person, other than my husband, that lives in Divvy, and the house that my former husband, before he passed away, we built over 30 years ago. And we just never thought that it would be anything except a beautiful residential community. And so I support all the reasons that my neighbors have said about why we do not want this change. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And last but not least, Ms. Nadine Long.
Is that all you got to say? Oh, darn.
Zip right along. My name is Nadine Long. I live at 128 Divvy Drive, San Mateo. I've resided in Putnam County for more than 60 years and have built a wonderful life in that time. I raised 2 children and now enjoy time with my granddaughter. Several years ago, I chose to make my forever home in San Mateo, with the oak canopies, the wildlife, and tranquility, and we do have a bobcat. This is why so many others have chosen and made the same decision. We are keenly aware that change is coming, and this inevitable change will force many residents of Putnam County to accept a new reality. As we find ourselves on the precipice of rapid growth, our representatives, those serving on our BOCC, are faced with an especially important task. You alone are the arbiters of what we as a county will become in the future. The choices you make now will shape and mold what we are to become for decades. We have all seen communities experience rapid growth, and we know decisions you make today while serving our community will serve as a precedent. We want to believe that we are part of a community whose leaders will work to make changes that will enrich the lives of its residents and change the perception or eliminate the stigma other parts of Putnam County suffer from. We hope your decisions reflect our wishes as they are our wishes as your constituents. The future Bass Pro Resort will have a massive impact on our entire area. We appeal to you to enforce the future land use directives in the comprehensive plan for San Mateo, effective through 2035. We are asking that the current deed restrictions placed on the property remain in place. These restrictions were put together by others who are thinking about the future impact that could be borne by our community if these lots were to be zoned commercial. We are a welcoming community of open-minded individuals. However, we desire that any future decisions ensure San Mateo remains a beautiful corridor throughout Putnam County. We want to break the cycle and avoid suffering from the stigma that other parts of Putnam County endure. Aesthetics, whether some may choose to believe it or not, are a critical determining factor in the future development and growth. The way we represent ourselves to the world determines what and who will want to be part of our community. On behalf of myself, my friends, and neighbors, I implore you not to approve these changes.
Let San Mateo evolve into an area we all cherish the surroundings. It enriches the lives of residents and brings pleasures to those passing through. Thank you.
Nadine, you realize that no matter how we vote today, it won't have anything to do with those deed restrictions because we don't enforce them.
I do understand that, but I
Okay.
had to say it.
I just wanted you to know that.
I do.
Okay.
I do. Thank you.
Is there anybody else here today? I'm out of green cards. Is there anybody else here today that wants to speak? You've already spoke. You want to speak again?
I would like to. I would like to address a couple of things that were said.
Okay. As the applicant, you're one of the applicants, correct?
My mom is. I'm speaking on her behalf, though.
Okay, we'll try to keep it as short as possible if you would.
I absolutely will. Do you need my name again?
Pardon me, yes, please.
Nora Costello, 208 Cabot Lane, Satsuma, Florida. It's been brought up that there's a possibility of an adult bookstore. We are staunch Christians. We own the RV park on the end of Troop Road. There's zoning for a bar that we could have on the water, on the RV park, and we have not went forward and done that. We could have traffic coming and going. The RV park was notorious. In this town, I think it was Gator or something, and it was Mutt and Ball. It was notorious in this town. Since we took it over, we've done nothing but make it nicer. We are permitted to have access to Highway 17, not just on Troop Road, to them properties, that if we get the zoning, we could enter in and off of Highway 17. Again, like I said, we do not know what we would do with it, but it would not be something that would be immoral. My sister wrote a letter to the mayor of this town when we first moved here 5 years ago. When she looked over and seen Adam and Eve, she said, I can't. She said, be a good Christian of good Christian values. And she said, pass by that and be all right with, she said, children driving by with what's on that window. And we have them same morals that everybody wants to uphold in this community. We do not want to bring it down. And I said that earlier, but I want to reiterate that.
Okay.
And that's
thank you.
important to me. So
Thank
that's
you.
why I wanted to come back up.
All right.
Thanks again, guys.
Not a problem. Okay, I'm going to close public comment at this time, and I think I'll start if you don't mind. I got heartburn with this one. I really do. And the heartburn is that C3 on the side of a road that we don't even know what's going there at all. So basically, it's called investment zoning. I don't really believe in investment zoning. I haven't ever done that. And not only that, it's between Troop Road. It's basically, except for the trailer park down on the end, there's residential area that they pass through to get to it. And then on the other side, you got divvy. The one on the corner is R2, and it's deep enough somebody could still possibly buy that property and build a home there, and then it would be in the residential character of divvy. So the two properties closer to Troop Road, you know, one of them's already C1.
Portion.
I don't know that I can get any deeper than that, personally, especially with, you know, if they were trying to do something like a certain type of a project or whatever, but basically they're saying, well, if we get a zoning and we get a more intense zoning, then we could get more money for the property because it was opening it up more. I think this is backwards. I think they need to decide what project they want to put there, and then maybe it'll fit in C2 or possibly even C1. And if that's the case, fine. If you need C3 at that point to fit it, to make the property work, then at least we have an idea what's going to start there, even though that doesn't mean that's what's going to always be there, because C3 lets a lot of things in, a lot of things. And you know, I don't think you could put one of these adult bookstores in C3. I think it'd be more intense than that. But anyhow, even if you could, if somebody buys that from you, you're not going to control what they do with it after you don't own it anymore. So if it's C3 and it allows a more intense zoning, it just means that it won't be that until you sell it or if you ever sell it. So I'm not going to support changing this at this time. I'm just not. I think that we need to find out a project and change it project specific, and I don't believe I would ever support changing the one that's actually a part of Divvy Estates, because it is deep enough somebody could build on it a residential property. So is any, Mr. Adams-Ack, did you have a?
Yeah, I think you covered a lot of it. I mean, I've been consistent in my time here about changing the C3, even where it's more commercial in this particular location, because of the alternative uses. I mean, even if you did something there, we approved it, and they did something that was one of the lighter uses, if they sold it, all those rest of those uses carry with the property for eternity. So C3 just seems a little aggressive, actually really aggressive to me, and I couldn't support it at C3, and not being sure what the depth is of that R2 as far as that one lot. If you're right, that argument's really good too. So I can't get there for C3 myself.
Okay, any more comments or discussion? Commissioner Pickens?
Yeah, the one lot, the C1, that stays there forever, right? So it has its particular uses, such as a retail store, which it has been, and now I guess
Right on the corner.
the art gallery. Okay, yeah, I was going to ask at the beginning, why the C3? And I understand, because I have many warehouses, and you need a C3 or have to have something with an exception in it. So, so that's all I wanted to say. I felt it was a little strong there too. Now, the second lot that is the R2, could it be combined with the other lot? I guess if they wanted to definitely make it big enough to put some type of a house on there, or whatever is available in the R2 zoning, and maybe even do an exception, special use permit?
Well, you know, personally, and this is just me, it wouldn't bother me any if they joined up the C1 on the corner with the one next to it. That would still give the residential lot over there on the Divvy side, which is where the biggest impact would be at some point.
Yeah, that was part B of my question. But anyway, I guess there's a possibility they could combine in those lots.
Yes, sir. The only thing that's required for a combination is that it wouldn't create a non-conforming with the zoning district, and then it has to be owned by the same property owner. So 2 separate parcels have to be owned by Bill Pickens.
So this is not one contingency property owner all the way across, there's multiple property owners?
There's 2 property owners for the 3 parcels, yes, sir.
Okay, so is the C1 and the one just to the north of it by the same person, or is that?
I'd have to look at the report. I'd have to look at the report.
Okay. Well, one of us needs to. So I guess point being is, like I said earlier, I'm not going to support this, but I was, thinking that maybe at some point if they wanted to I didn't know what authority we had today to do things. In other words, can we actually say that we're not going to give C3 to any of them, but we would allow C1 on the corner, and then on the next one that's R2, we would change that to C1. That would give them commercial zoning on the corner at Troop Road, and then deny any change to the zoning on the one next to Divvy. Do we have that authority, or would it have to be re-advertised and go through the whole process again, so it's either approve or deny today?
Mr. Commando?
So, no, you don't have the authority to amend what the application is. Based upon your comments and the comments of the commission, the applicant can ask to withdraw their application, amend the application. It would have to be re-advertised because the public would have to have the opportunity to come and make comment based on what the anticipated change would be. So,
or they could start over after a period of time once they've been denied.
They could start over. I mean, honestly, since they already paid the fee, they may want to just amend, but that's up to the applicants.
Would y'all have any interest in withdrawing the current application and refiling? It would probably save you your $600 or $700 fee and ask for a C1 and not change the zoning next to Divvy.
So being that all the applicants are not present, they may wish to ask to defer.
I don't I can't speak for the other commissioners, but I don't believe what you're asking for is going to pass today. And so I'm trying to find a way to possibly get you sort of where you're wanting to get without spending more money. But I'm going to tell you, this commissioner, and I can only speak for myself, is not going to vote for changing. Okay. Yeah, I'm not trying to negotiate, understand that.
I'm trying
just
to follow
telling you that this commissioner is not gonna vote to change or that piece of property on the corner of Divvy from R2, because I think that's a residential neighborhood and a residential property. So whatever y'all decide to ask for on the other, it's all fine.
So this is C1 here by Troop Road. Do I have to say
It's
my name
already
again?
C1, yes.
C1. The center piece of property right now is R2.
That's correct, that's my understanding.
Could we make that C1 today? Would that be possible?
No, we can, is what
No,
he's
well,
saying. It
first
would
off,
have to be
even if
re-advertised.
Even if everyone agreed, no, you can't do that today. There would have to be advertising and notice provisions to go along with it, especially because we heard a number of people claiming they didn't have notice, which is somewhat odd that.
There were 4 to 6 signs posted on Highway 17 and on Troop Road.
Mr. Baker can address that. Well, that's really not what my point was.
Okay.
My point is because it wasn't noticed for that purpose, it would have to be advertised again.
Okay, so
Okay, so would you like to defer, withdraw, defer until, and we'll defer it to another
Yes.
time in the future, and then you can go back and talk to Mr. Baker, and if you wish to re-advertise and change your application some, then it would be, she could do that and just pay for the additional advertising, correct?
Yes, sir, and then we would just take it back to planning commission and start it all over again.
that
Is
would
that
be-
what you
yes,
do?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yes.
so the applicant has asked to defer, so that basically means that basically means nothing's gonna take place today at all. Thank you for coming today. I believe that's what kept it from happening, so you can pat yourselves on the back. And Miss Fitzgerald, you can pat all your people on the back that you made come out here today.
Mr. Chairman,
And I
if
think
I'm-
you should get on to number 10 for not being here, okay? Okay, I'm sorry.
If I may, I did want to address the notification concerns. So we did notify according to the requirements of our land development code. We did place signs along US 17 and Troop Road. The land development code does not require signs along along a private right-of-way, which Divvy is. So that explains why signs weren't there. In terms of the letters, the one citizen stated that we had the wrong mailing address. It's the property owner's responsibility to make sure the property appraiser has the right mailing address. We just use our GIS map to figure out where to send it to. And then there was another complaint that I had received, and I don't know that it came to light today, but just to get it all out there.
Zach, I think you're being a little too defensive, brother.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that we understand you did the best you could with the information you had, and I don't think that you need to answer to every single complaint from every citizen in a zoning case.
All right. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to, that's all for the planning and development public hearing. We've still got another half a meeting to go. Y'all are welcome to stay and listen if you please. Yeah, we're gonna take a 3-minute break, 3 minutes and 27.
We still missing two commissioners, right?
Well, we got a quorum. I can move into public comment on agenda items while they're getting back. Public comment on agenda items. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow the citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It's not reasonable to expect the board will debate or deliberate on matters with the board receiving no prior information. This is on the consent agenda only. Comment cards are placed in the meeting room entrance and should be submitted prior to the meeting to the deputy clerk, Miss Ashley, right over here. Is there anybody today? Do you have any more cards? Do you have any cards left after today? Is there anybody that would like to speak under public comment on agenda items? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment on agenda items, and we will move to the consent agenda. Commissioner Adams Act. Commissioner Harvey.
I have none.
Commissioner Pickens.
I have none.
And we'll wait just a minute where I can ask Commissioner Wilkinson, does she wish to remove anything from the consent agenda?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, and I have none.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items A through N.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a motion and a second under discussion. There was one that I wanted to pull. Would you rescind your motion?
I'll rescind my
I'd like
motion.
to pull item J.
Okay. Would you pull your second? Sure. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, K, L, M, and N.
Okay, we have a motion and done a second.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. The only thing I want to know on J is I had a talk to them about it, item J, and there's 2 trucks and 2 bigger trucks. There was two 250 crew trucks and two 550 crew trucks.
Yes,
correct?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, and it was my understanding that they ended up costing more than what we had budgeted them to cost, but we're not asking for additional monies right now, and the reason being is that you have monies left for other items, and you're gonna see if it'll work out in the end, and if it doesn't work out in the end, you'll come back and talk to the board somewhere in the future about that line item.
That is
correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct. The two 550s were actually less than what we budgeted. I'd actually got a quote early on them. The problem was the amount that the 250s jumped between the time that we got our quote and what they cost today.
Okay.
Mr.
Good
Chairman, I
deal.
move
just
item
want
J.
everybody to understand that. Would you move that one?
I just moved item J for approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, we're going to move to new business. Y'all want to do positively Putnam again?
They're
We've done
sitting
it the
here.
last 2 or 3 years.
I'm all for it.
Okay, Paul, you want to do it again? You want to do it again, Bill?
Lead in support.
You want to do it again, Commissioner Wilkinson?
Sure.
Okay,
want a
that's
motion?
5 yeses.
You want a motion?
Yes, we probably do.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we fund positively Putnam at $675 per month.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Court, it says month.
What?
Wait.
675.
It said a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's a month.
Okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
Do we pay that by the month or by the year?
By the result.
By the month, okay. All right, so we have a motion on the floor, $675 a month, and a second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. That was the easiest sale you ever had, wasn't it? Have you been here all day long?
She has.
And so is this nice gentleman right here.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Okay, we're going to move to item B. Parks and Rec resolution on the sports field conversion and corresponding budget resolution for $47,000. Julianne, are you taking that one?
Stephen.
Oh, Mr. Stevens is here, okay. Please come forward. You been here all day
He's
too?
been in that room
Yes,
back
sir.
there with the rest of them.
Wow.
It was fun, though. Good afternoon, Commissioner.
They've been eating
A couple of years ago, in around July of 2022, the Melrose Youth Sports Association, after that wonderful spring season they had, and their numbers started growing, they came to the Recreation Advisory Board and was asking for some lights for a couple of fields. They wanted to put new lights on the field. They had a really big wish list, and Commissioner Pickens and the rest of the advisory board kind of talked to them about narrowing that down, kind of focusing a little bit more. The staff, administration, and Commissioner Pickens went out on site, had a meeting with them. They said, okay, well, this is what we really need right now. This was around September, October of 2022. And so we got them the new lights, the field lights that they were requesting. But again, their program continues to grow and get that many more participants. So they came back to the Recreation Advisory Board on October the 2nd, requesting the amount that you see in front of you for converting the field that they had previously, converting that field over to LED lights. And so that's what this was for. The Recreation Advisory Board unanimously approved it, and it thought, seeing the paperwork that we have with how much Melrose puts into their program, purchasing scoreboards and paying for things themselves, that it was a great partnership and to support them with that.
Commissioner Pickens?
Yeah, I just want to add to what Kevin said. When they came back to us, I was kind of concerned about, how many times can you come back to the well and how quickly? But when you look at their program and what they've done, what they've put in themselves in sweat equity and money from purchasing buildings, I think they just purchased a new lawnmower and things like that.
Yes, sir.
This is a good partnership, and this will upgrade that last field. So they'll have 3 LED fields, for softball and baseball. And if it's anything like what has happened in the Crescent City Park, I've heard nothing but good positive comments about the LED lights. It's really, really good. So it was unanimous from our board.
Okay. We put in 2 fields of lights for them last year, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then this is the 3rd field.
Yes, sir. This will be the last one.
Okay. Didn't the school system own a field out there too?
Not on our property. That we have a fence up as a property line. And so, yes, they do have some fields on the school's property, but none of the 3 fields that we're working on are on the school's property. They're all on county property.
Okay.
And this is upgrading the existing, what do you call them, incandescent lights?
Yes, sir.
Which are getting harder to find and repair to the LED lights. So it's going to be superior lighting and a lot less maintenance also. I know it's a lot of money, but I feel definitely that it's needed out there.
Okay. Commissioner Adams-Ack?
This is the field all the way in the back, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that's the one furthest back on our property. So it's on our property. It's the furthest one back if you enter the concession stand to the left. And I will say, I've been to that field many times. Unfortunately, the kids I work with don't like playing baseball, so they don't do that anymore. So we don't go to Melrose anymore. But that field did have a lot of weird shadows with the incandescent lights. I mean, it did create some issues with fielding fly balls and stuff when they had to use the lights. So I support this. I think it's a lot better than doing the full, at least the wiring is there on this one and things like that. So it's saving us some money there.
Yes, sir.
So.
Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where's this money going to come from, Julianne? Okay, could I use some of my $200,000? Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this conversion project using $25,000 out of reserve and $22,000 out of my $200,000 allocation.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Very kind of you, Commissioner. Item C, request to advertise a public hearing to vacate a portion of Brewer Street in East Palaca.
It's hard.
Congratulations.
You must bad want that road
My
closed.
partner had a doctor's appointment, so he had to leave.
Yeah.
So he left with me going over what we had to do where we live. We live at 100 Work Street in East Palaca.
Need your name and address.
My name is Michael McGraw. I live at 100 Work Street in East Palaca. We live in a house that was built in 1915. It's a gunshot house.
Yeah, shotgun.
Or cracker house,
Cracker
whatever you
house.
want to use. And on the side of that cracker house, there is a street called Brewer Street. It's a street that never been developed. It's been there over 100 years. So we requested to have it vacated. And we did. We actually went through the process. We worked with Marie Chase from the county. She told us what process we had to go through, what documents we had to fill out. We met with our neighbors, adjoining neighbors to the street, and got no objections from them. We went to each utility company and got no objections from them at all. And
Here we are.
here we are. So we went from, it's a 40 feet by 87.5 foot a street, and it went to 30 by 87.5. And we're going to be dividing the street up between ourselves and my next door neighbor.
That sounds great. Does anybody want to make the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve resolution number 2023 authorizing, vacating the portion of Brewer Street in East Palaca.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to advertise for a public hearing.
Yeah, that's it. I'm sorry.
I'll help him out.
I got it.
Advertise for a public hearing to vacate a portion of Brewer Street in East Palaca.
Thank you.
That suit you? Okay.
That's it.
All right, so we are going to do that. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. Come on down, Thomas Moore.
So for this
Okay.
fall, gentlemen, we
Good evening.
made November 14th for all the other meetings too, right?
Do we have to set a meeting for that?
Yeah, but I don't know if they can do it that quick or not, but
Poor old
they'll
fella.
get to it quick as they can.
Thank you for being so patient today.
It will be November 14th at 9:05.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Thank you,
It
sir.
will be the next meeting. Short and sweet, Thomas, please, sir.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Commissioners.
First one is Codes Case 2007.
Mr. Chairman, is anybody here
58.
for any of these code cases?
Anybody here for any of them?
Mr. Chairman, on case number 2007-00058, I make a recommendation that we accept staff recommendation of $1,355 to be paid within 90 days.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, on the next case, since no one's here for that case, 2015-00248, I make a motion that we accept the hard cost of $2,334 if paid within 90 days.
Second with
We have a
discussion.
motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, this one does have a surplus requested, so how did we,
I actually received it on October 20th. I received $25,75.60.
So it's
that could-
already been paid.
I just received it, yes, sir.
So you'll be sending some back.
Oh, I see.
All right,
2875.
well, I think what you need to do is go on and vote on the motion as presented, and then any additional monies will be handled by the Honorable Mr. Reynolds.
Correct.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, on
Chairman, I'm going to take this one, just because he
Thank you.
can't do everything.
Hired out today.
Code Case 2021-00146, I move approval of fine reduction to $1,800
If paid within 90 days.
Second.
within 90 days.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. How's that for a presentation, Thomas?
Perfect. Thank you, Commissioners.
You must have been talking to Sarah Carone back up in there.
Yeah, no kidding. She was teaching you how to get that done, I guess. Okay, appointments. Commissioner Adams Act? Commissioner Harvey?
I have none.
Commissioner Pickens?
I have none.
Commissioner Wilkinson?
I have none.
And I have none. Public comment on miscellaneous items. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect that the board will engage in debate or deliberation about matters on which the board has received no prior information. Please limit to 3 minutes. Comment cards are placed at the back of the meeting room and should be given to Ashley, the clerk, deputy clerk. Is there anybody in attendance that would like to speak?
The clock
Okay.
is running, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that's for me?
No.
Okay,
Do you have any more comment cards?
I don't have any, no.
No, I mean,
I don't
any
think we have any, period.
any left, I guess,
I don't
write it
think
on
we
a
have-
napkin.
I think they're gonna have to send out for some more paper stock.
Got that right.
We need a budget amendment for that.
Okay, that's public comment. The Honorable Matt Reynolds,
I have nothing, sir.
the Honorable Captain Commando, the Honorable Mr. Administrator Suggs.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Just one item. We received a letter late last week from the city of Palatka. They are applying for a USDA rural development grant to purchase some vehicles, public safety vehicles for their police department. And they were asking for a letter of support from the Board of County Commissioners. And with your approval, Board, I will be more than happy to sign this letter and send it in. There's, all it is a letter of support for the city of Palatka.
Anybody care?
I don't care. Wave and support.
Wave, okay.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have.
All right, Commissioner comments, Commissioner Adams, Act. Commissioner Harvey.
Celebrating my 39th anniversary of my wife and I's first date this coming Saturday, Florida-Georgia game. Go Gators.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Commissioner Pickens.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to thank Mary Lynn Penanita and the Flora Home Group for what they have accomplished with the county's help and other donations from individuals and companies to redo Palmetto Hall. It is absolutely beautiful. We went to the Heritage Festival. My wife and I did last Saturday. Commissioner Harvey was there naturally and cooking barbecue, but they did a ribbon cutting, and the building is absolutely beautiful, and all the things, the artifacts that they have in there, old pictures and old bottles, all different kind of things like that. You really need to make an effort to go out there to see it. They'll be able to use this facility for years and years, and just a really special piece of Flora Homes history. That's all I got.
Commissioner Wilkinson.
I have one piece of exciting news. I've been asking about us trying to do a pet adoption. And so I reached out to the 1024 Foundation. They're doing a Pitmaster Classic on Saturday, November 4th from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I asked if we could set up an adoption event there. And they said yes. And there's also going to be a kids zone, a touch-a-truck. And it's a big, basically a barbecue and live entertainment at the fairgrounds. And so if you guys can put it on your calendar and come by and help us with that, that'd be great. But we did get approval from them. And so I'd like to make sure that you guys are all okay with us doing that pet adoption on that day. And then also ask.
Thank you. Sounds good. Thank you.
Sounds good? Okay, good. And then the second thing is, can I get approval to waive adoption fees for that day?
Would you make that motion, Commissioner Harvey? Or
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we waive the adoption fee for our animals for the November 4th meeting, 4th for the 1024 Foundation event that we're going to be adopting animals out.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries.
That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I've got two things. Number one is I got to wish my wife a happy birthday today. Forgot it this morning and had to call her on the way in, so I did save myself before the meeting, but I'm going to wish her one on TV also. And one last quick thing, we now own Dunn's Creek, the property that DOT sold to us. I've asked JR to have it mowed. Hopefully today it got mowed, where I would like for the commission to allow me to, if it's within the $65,000 that Mr. Suggs and I can spend, we have money in the money item to start design if it's less than 65. If not, I'll bring it back to the board. But hopefully it'll be less than 65. How much was the design at Georgetown we did the other day?
50, I think it was 58.
68?
58, I think is what it was.
Well, if it's less than 65, I just don't want to spend it without telling the commission or asking the commission to do it. Even though we could, I don't want to do it without permission.
I think it's perfectly fine. We should not buy property and not try to develop it.
Yes, sir. Well, hopefully it'll be mowed today. We can get a price from Q Meyer, the CRG, our continuing services guy, and then we will, if it's less than 65, we'll go ahead and get it started. If it's more than 65, then I'll bring it back to the board and ask permission again before we spend that money.
You want a motion?
Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we allow you to go ahead and do the design on the Dunn's Creek property, and maximum right now is $65,000.
Have a motion.
Second
We have a
with
second.
discussion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further
Yeah,
discussion?
one question. Would that come out of the fishing fund, or would that come out of the?
That'll come out of the money that we split out of the Better Place plan, half to Georgetown and half to this.
Yeah, we already funded it, right?
Yeah.
But it could very easily come out of the fishing fund.
I'd prefer it to come out of the fishing fund if that's allowed.
Would you include that as part of your motion, Commissioner Harvey, that it be funded out of the fishing fund?
Mr. Chairman, amend my motion that the
So Commissioner, you
65,000.
can fund it out of the fishing fund, but it would require another meeting because we would have to move funds out of a restricted reserve account into a professional services line.
Let's just leave it like it is right now. We can always amend
Can
the
we leave it
budget.
like
Use
it
that for
is, and then let's
construction.
switch some money out of there to replace it with at some point in the future?
No, you're in two different funds.
Yeah.
We can't switch the money around.
Just leave it like it is.
When you
We
get
got-
down to construction, I think that's where,
Yeah, I think so.
or another use, so we got
Right.
the money, so I don't
Yeah.
have a problem. I want it done.
Well, I want it to go
also.
to either Georgetown or Dunn's Creek,
I
and I
know.
don't really care which one, but I want it to go to a capital project.
I'm with you 100%.
Okay, so anyhow, all right, so all in favor, say aye, or
Aye.
did we do that? Yeah, we did.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, you opposed to funding it because we didn't do it out of the boat route fund? Okay. We'll get that switched. Yeah, I understand. I don't disagree with you, but I just didn't want to hold up being able to design this. But I'm on board with you as far as spending the money out of that fishing fund for a capital project. Okay, so, I believe that's all we have come before the board today, right? Anything have? Meeting adjourned.